You and I both know there's a version of you that keeps knocking from the inside. It appears in flashes. A moment of restraint when anger wants to flood your mouth. A heartbeat of courage before fear closes your hand. A single clear thought that cuts through anxiety's fog. But life is loud, and that version gets drowned out by notifications, by opinions that never risk anything, by the heavy costume of yesterday's habits. If you've been feeling tired in places sleep can't reach, if you've been orbiting the same problem as if gravity were personal, if you've been waiting for a sign that is neither vague nor theatrical, take these next minutes as a mirror and a map. We are going to speak plainly, look directly, and act decisively. The aim isn't to impress you, it's to arm you. You don't need slogans, you need tools you can hold with one hand in the dark. Imagine how different your day would feel if you carried a few unbreakable laws inside your chest. Laws that don't depend on mood or on other people cooperating. Picture yourself waking up with a quiet center, dealing with problems without theatrics, and going to bed with the sweet fatigue of someone who used everything they were given. This is what the Stoics were building, not a philosophy for lectures, but a discipline for battle. And the battlefield, of course, is the mind. Therapy can be powerful. I respect it deeply. But there are days where you don't need a session. You need standards. There are hours where insight isn't enough. You need action. That's where these 15 lessons step in. Each one is a blade, simple, sharp, and steady. Use them. Let them scrape away self-deception, make you allergic to excuses, and return to you the one thing you were never supposed to outsource, your authority over yourself. If you stay with me, you won't just feel inspired. You'll be different by the time we're done, because knowing these lessons changes how you judge, how you choose, and how you carry your time. Let's begin, not with fireworks, but with a decision you can feel in your spine. Today, you stop bargaining with your lesser self. The first lesson arrives at the doorway of every day and asks a brutal question. What belongs to you and what doesn't? If you can't answer that, you will exhaust yourself solving other people's weather. The Stoics called it the discipline of control. Think of your life as a small fortress on a large plain. Outside the walls rage events, opinions, traffic, markets, algorithms, and moods that aren't yours. Inside the walls live your judgments, choices, and actions. Therapy often starts by exploring how you feel. This lesson starts by upgrading what you aim at. Control is a narrow target, smaller than your ego wishes, larger than your excuses claim. You control your effort, your attention, your words, your standards, and your response. That's it. The power here isn't in the list, it's in the exclusion. When you remove what isn't yours to steer, the mind quiets like a sea after a storm. Try it right now. Name the problem you're wrestling with. Now draw a line down the page. On the left, write what you can influence. On the right, everything you can't. When you catch your thoughts crossing the wall, predicting, pleasing, fearing, bring them back by asking, what is the next controllable move? This question is a leash for wild thinking. Sometimes that move is tiny. Shut the app, drink the water, write the email, apologize. Sometimes it's internal. Change the story before you change the strategy. Here's the hard part. Don't confuse outcomes with actions. Outcomes are guests. Actions are your home. When a day goes poorly, judge yourself by what was in your control, not by what was never yours. When a day goes well, do the same. Emotional stability isn't numbness, it's fidelity to your circle of control. And the transition to the next lesson is natural. Once you know what's yours, you must practice on purpose, because clarity without rehearsal is just trivia. The second lesson is about training your mind daily before life trains it for you. You already have a mental practice. Everyone does. It's whatever you repeat when you're not paying attention. The Stoic move is to make that repetition sacred. Choose a simple morning ritual that sets your operating system. A brief reading, a question, a visualization of obstacles you'll face today. Visualizing obstacles sounds negative to the naive. In reality, it's immune training. You pre-meet the day's resistance so it can't ambush you. Imagine the traffic, the delay, the criticism, the temptation to scroll, the co-worker's tone, the tiredness at 4 p.m. Then picture your response, not perfect, just principled. This small rehearsal gives your brain a pattern to find when emotion floods the room. Add to this the practice of evening review, not self-abuse, but honest accounting. Ask 3 questions. Where did I act from principle? Where did I fold? What will I change tomorrow? This is better than vague guilt. It's craftsmanship. A carpenter checks their tools. You check your character. And here's the surprise. Consistency beats intensity. The brain prefers the daily breadcrumb to the monthly feast. 5 minutes of focused review is stronger than an hour of occasional drama. As you build this, expect boredom. Boredom is a sign you're doing the work, not chasing dopamine. On days you don't feel like it, do a reduced version. Win on technicality rather than lose by idealism. Training the mind is unpaid until it isn't. When crisis arrives, and it always does, your habits pay you back with calm. From here, we move to the third lesson, because practice without standards is just movement. You can run in circles forever. Let's set the standard that ends that. The third lesson is this. Hold yourself to a code, not a mood. Most people negotiate their values with the weather of their feelings. The Stoics wrote their rules in ink. Define 3 to 5 non-negotiables that govern your day regardless of the plot twists. Examples. I tell the truth even when it costs. I do first what matters most. I do not speak ill of people who aren't present. I keep promises to myself. I do the hard thing before the urgent thing. You don't need eloquent wording. You need enforcement. The moment you treat your standards as guidelines, your lesser self hires a lawyer. And it wins. Write your code and post it somewhere private. The phone lock screen, a sticky note on the bathroom mirror, the inside of a notebook you actually use. Now, expect to break your own rules, not because you're weak, but because you're human. The strength isn't in never failing. It's in swift course correction without the courtroom of self-hate. Say out loud, "That's not my standard," and redo the moment if you can. Apologize without theater. Recommit without ceremony. Over time, this creates a spine others can sense. The benefit isn't moral vanity, it's predictability. You become simple inside, and simplicity is energy. With a code in place, your mind stops running mock trials and starts building results. Then, a subtler problem appears. Even with standards, you'll suffer. That's unavoidable. What matters is how you use your pain. That takes us to the fourth lesson. The fourth lesson: convert suffering into skill. Pain, left unprocessed, rots into bitterness or anxiety. Pain, processed with discipline, becomes ability. The Stoics treated adversity as a gym. No mythic language, just practical alchemy. Ask 2 questions whenever you hurt. First, What is this trying to teach me? Second, how can I train that lesson daily? If a relationship wounds you with betrayal, the lesson might be boundary skill, and the training is practicing no in small ways every day. If a project fails, the lesson might be iteration speed. Train it by shipping tiny versions more often. If your body breaks down, the lesson might be humility and maintenance. Train it with sleep, nutrition, and refusing to glamorize burnout. Notice the pattern. Feelings trigger a class. The class assigns homework. Homework builds skill. Therapy can help you name the class. Stoicism helps you do the homework. To avoid self-pity's sinkhole, add gratitude, not the saccharine kind, but the tactical kind. I don't like this, but I'm grateful for the chance to gain X. That sentence is a lever. It moves your attention from what you lost to what you're building. You will be tempted to perform your pain for applause. Resist. Quiet growth outlasts public theatrics. Share when it helps someone, otherwise let the results speak. And speaking of results, there's a distraction that ruins most of them: other people's opinions. The fifth lesson teaches you to stop renting your life to their voices. The fifth lesson: approval is a narcotic. Detox. Humans are wired to belong, but not to beg. The Stoic stance is radical independence of judgment. Seek truth, not applause. Ask yourself, would I still do this if nobody ever knew? If the answer is no, you're performing, not living. This isn't an argument for rudeness. It's a call to retrain the reward system. Replace the dopamine of likes with the deeper satisfaction of aligned action. When praise comes, receive it without swallowing it whole. Thank you. Back to work. When criticism comes, sort it. Signal or noise. If it's signal, clear, specific, delivered by someone who risks anything, use it. If it's noise, let it dissolve at the gate. Create a small council of the sane. 2 or 3 truth-tellers whose standards you respect. Everyone else is weather. This isn't cynicism, it's conservation. You have a limited budget of attention, and attention is the currency of your life. Spend it where it compounds. One last move. Stop rehearsing conversations that never happen. The mind scripts arguments to feel momentarily powerful. In reality, it stains your focus. Interrupt the script with a physical action. Stand up, breathe 6 slow exhales, put your phone in another room. You're reclaiming square footage in your own head. Now that you've pried your hands off other people's steering wheels, the sixth lesson teaches you to take hold of time itself. The sixth lesson: treat the day like a coin you can only spend once. Everyone says time is money, but money can be earned back. Time can't. The Stoic attitude toward time is almost sacred. Begin by naming the day's one essential, not 5. 1. If everything else explodes, you still protect this. Put it early. Protect it with a door. No alerts, no casual conversations, no quick checks that swallow an hour. The discipline here is anti-fragile scheduling. Light buffers, honest estimates, and ruthless endings. Meetings end when the work is done, not when the clock says so. Deep work gets the prime hours. Errands get the leftovers. Live in calendar blocks, not to-do list fantasies. A list is a wish. A block is a promise. And remember, saying yes is writing a check with your future energy. Before you agree, ask, what will this cost when the excitement fades? Accept the debt only if the purpose survives the mood. Protecting your day will anger people who benefit from your chaos. They'll call you rigid. Let them. You're not rigid. you're reverent. You're lighting a candle around the hours so your life doesn't draft in the wind. What fills those hours? That leads us to the 7th lesson. Choose the hard that makes you stronger over the easy that leaves you weaker. The 7th lesson: embrace voluntary hardship. Comfort, taken as a default, softens the will. The Stoics practiced small, chosen discomforts to widen their capacity. Eat a simple meal on purpose. Walk when you could ride. Skip the unnecessary luxury. Take a cold shower, not for social media, but for sovereignty. You gave a command and your body obeyed. These aren't stunts, they're micro-contracts with yourself. Each one quietly says, I am not governed by impulse. The benefit isn't martyrdom, it's relief. When life throws compulsory hardship, you recognize the terrain. Your system has rehearsed discomfort, so panic doesn't get top billing. Voluntary hardship also cleans your priorities. When you say no to the shiny purchase, you say yes to a larger goal. Choose the difficult conversation now, you say yes to reality. Wake early for the work that matters, you say yes to the future you respect. There's a warning here. Don't weaponize hardship against others. The point isn't to sneer at comfort, it's to steer your character. Nor is the point to break yourself, it's to build yourself. Choose the level that strains but doesn't shatter. As your capacity grows, dial it up. The reward is subtle. An interior quiet replaces the anxious itch for more. And from that quiet, you can see the next lesson clearly. Perspective. Not the social media kind, the life-saving kind. The 8th lesson. Widen the frame. A problem magnified fills your vision. A problem framed shrinks to its true size. The Stoics practiced cosmic perspective. Zoom out from the moment to the month, from the month to the year, from the year to a lifespan, and from there to the sweep of history. Ask, will this matter in 5 years? If yes, act with care. If no, reduce its rent in your head. This isn't indifference, it's proportion. You can cry at a funeral and still see the seasons returning. You can grind at a project and still remember you are a mortal creature who gets a few summers. Remembering this doesn't make you passive, it makes you free. You stop living as if every inconvenience is a verdict on your worth. Perspective also applies to success. Zoom out when you win, otherwise you'll become drunk on a local high and miss the next step. When you zoom out, gratitude slips in naturally. You see the long chain of hands that carried you here. Teachers, friends, strangers whose names you don't know. Gratitude breaks the illusion of self-sufficiency and makes arrogance look silly. From perspective, we move to purity of speech because words are the handles of your life. The 9th lesson. Speak as if your words are invoices. You pay for them later. Stoics valued clean speech, truthful, necessary, and restrained. Before you speak, filter. Is it true? Is it needed? Is it the right time? Gossip fails all three. So does vague complaining. Replace always and never with the accurate sometimes and this time. Replace character attacks with behavior feedback. Your careless becomes, this report had 3 preventable errors. Let's look at your process. When angry, put your words in escrow. Write them down, wait an hour, then decide if they still deserve to exist. This isn't censorship, it's craftsmanship. Your language sculpts your reality. If you talk like a victim, your brain searches for bars. If you talk like an owner, your brain looks for levers. Keep promises small and sacred. I'll call you tomorrow should survive tomorrow. Each kept word deposits trust. Each broken one bankrupts it. Speak sparingly about your goals. Speak loudly with your results. As your speech cleans up, your relationships change temperature. Heat drains out. Respect flows in. With your words under governance, you're ready for the 10th lesson, one that therapy often circles, but Stoicism nails to the floor: responsibility. The 10th lesson: own everything you can touch. Responsibility isn't blame, it's power. When you say, "It's on me," you don't shrink, you grow, because responsibility brings levers into reach. Practice this in ordinary moments. If a meeting is chaotic, own your part. Did you shape the agenda, time box the discussion, clarify decisions? If your finances feel like a storm, own the numbers. Track every dollar for a month. If your emotions are running the show, own your body. Fix sleep first, because exhausted brains counterfeit problems. Say, "I chose," instead of "I had to." The brain hears the difference and upgrades your posture. There's a danger here. Don't steal responsibility that belongs to others. That's control in disguise. The rule is simple: own what you can meaningfully change. When you operate this way, your confidence shifts from peacocking to quiet competence. You don't need to shout. Your life starts saying it for you. And once you own your sphere, you will meet limits. The 11th lesson teaches you what to do there. Practice negative visualization. The 11th lesson: rehearse loss to sweeten life. Most people starve their appreciation by assuming permanence. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining what could go wrong, not to despair, but to prepare and to love more fiercely. Picture the meeting derailed, the flight cancelled, the deal lost, the loved one absent. Then come back to the present and notice how precious it all is. This practice has two surprising effects. First, it lowers panic when disruption arrives. You've already visited this room. Second, it intensifies gratitude now. Fear of loss becomes fuel for presence. Hold your child longer. Taste your coffee. Look your friend in the eyes. Say the kind word today. Negative visualization is not courting tragedy, it is refusing arrogance. It also shapes prudent action. You buy insurance, you back up your files, you set aside savings, you learn basic first aid, you write a will. You don't do this because you're anxious. You do it because you're an adult. And when you prepare for winter in summer, summer gets brighter. With this tenderness installed, we turn to the 12th lesson: boundaries, the architecture of self-respect. The 12th lesson: let your no be a door, not a debate. Boundaries aren't walls, they are doors with rules. The Stoic way is to be generous with kindness and strict with access. Define the behaviors you allow around you and the behaviors you refuse. Enforce without theater. I don't discuss work after 7 p.m. I won't lend money. I can gift small amounts, not loans. If you raise your voice, I will pause the conversation. Boundaries fail when you need the other person to applaud them. You don't. You need to state them clearly, once or twice, and then act consistently. People will test them, some innocently, some strategically. Testing isn't your cue to argue, it's your cue to apply the rule. Don't explain your values to someone committed to misunderstanding them. Conserve your breath. The unexpected benefit is spaciousness. Boundaries create room to be generous where it matters. When your time isn't captured by guilt, you can give with warmth, not resentment. Boundaries also strengthen self-respect. Every enforced no is a vote for your own dignity. Watch your life rise to the level of your refusals. With the edges protected, we pivot to the 13th lesson. Presence, because a guarded life without attention is still a poor one. The 13th lesson. Do one thing like it's the only thing. Attention is oxygen. Scatter it, and you suffocate. Stoicism isn't joyless, it's focused. Practice single-task devotion. When you eat, eat. When you work, work. When you rest, rest. Your brain becomes what it practices. If it practices fragmentation, you'll feel fractured even on vacation. If it practices depth, boredom dissolves and meaning thickens. To train presence, choose a mundane ritual and sanctify it. For example, the first 10 sips of your morning drink in silence, or the first 5 minutes after you sit to work. Breathe, read your one objective, begin. Put your phone in another room during your deep block. Out of sight, out of mind isn't a cliché, it's neurology. Set short, honest sprints with real breaks. 25 minutes on, 5 off. During the sprint, when the impulse to switch tasks pings you, smile and stay. You are taming a restless animal by petting it, not by beating it. Over weeks, a remarkable shift occurs. Ordinary moments grow flavor. Washing dishes becomes meditation. Walking to the store becomes a lesson in noticing. You don't need to chase novelty. You taste reality. The next lesson builds on this tasted reality. Gratitude as practice, not posture. The 14th lesson. Gratitude is a discipline of attention. It's not a caption, it's a count. Each evening list 3 specific things you're grateful for and why. Specificity is the blade. The way the sun hit the kitchen table at 7:10 a.m. That I caught myself before snapping. A message from an old friend that closed a loop. Then add one hard thing you're grateful for and what it's training in you. Patience, courage, clarity. Gratitude isn't blindness to injustice, it's sight that makes justice worth pursuing. Without gratitude, ambition becomes acid. You have everything and taste nothing. With it, desire stays clean. You chase not because you're empty, but because you're capable. Gratitude also immunizes you against envy. When you count what is yours, other people's highlight reels lose their sting. You can applaud without shrinking. And when gratitude is wired to your nervous system, you naturally give more. Which brings us to the 15th and final lesson. Service. Your growth is not finished until it bends outward. The 15th lesson. Aim your strength at something bigger than you. Stoicism is often caricatured as self-absorption, but its final arc is outward. A life well governed becomes a life well given. Choose a domain where your competence relieves real suffering, mentoring someone who stands where you once stood, improving a process that wastes people's energy, donating skill, not just money, building something that outlives your mood. Service does not require a stage, it requires a standard. Leave things better than you found them. Do this first at home. Tidy the kitchen, not because it's your turn, but because you're a steward. Do it at work. Document your solutions so the next person moves faster. Do it in your community. Show up for the unglamorous task. Why does this matter? Because purpose locks in habits. It's easier to wake early when you're not just chasing your own glow, but delivering light. Service recalibrates your suffering. It becomes fuel, not a shrine. You begin to see discipline not as a private trophy, but as public infrastructure. Others can walk more easily because you paved your part of the road. In the end, that is the Stoic promise. You become harder to break and easier to trust. Now gather the thread. You've learned to focus on what's yours, to train daily, to install a code above your mood, to convert pain into skill, to detox from approval, to treat time as holy, to choose purposeful hardship, to widen the frame, to polish your speech, to own your sphere, to rehearse loss so you can love more, to build boundaries that protect your dignity, to practice presence until ordinary moments taste like victory, to count your blessings so your ambition stays clean, and to aim your strength at service so your life doesn't collapse into itself. This is not a list to memorize, it's a life to rehearse. Take one lesson and drag it into today. Write your code and tape it to your morning. Visualize the obstacles at breakfast. Protect one block of undisturbed work. Tell the truth kindly. Say no without rage. Do the small, hard thing on purpose. Zoom out when the storm shrieks. Speak cleanly. Own what you can touch. Picture loss and hug tighter. Guard your edges. Do one thing like it's the only thing. Count 3 specifics, 1 hard thing. Leave something better than you found it. You don't need to become someone else. You need to stop negotiating with the noise. The person you're waiting to admire is the one who starts practicing now, not convincingly, but consistently. That person isn't a heroic myth. They are simply you with standards. And that, more than therapy on the days you can't access it, is how you heal. By becoming someone you can rely on when the world is not reliable. The mirror will notice. Your work will notice. Your relationships will notice. The quiet voice inside you, that voice that knocks, will settle into your chest like a home finally entered. You'll still feel fear. You'll still meet grief. But you'll carry yourself through them with a strength that doesn't need to be loud. That's what the Stoics were crafting, citizens of their own souls. So take a breath. Decide one small enforcement right now. Send the message, close the app, begin the task. Apologize cleanly, drink the water, write the line. Step outside and feel the air on your face for 3 counts longer than usual. This is not ceremony. This is how lives are made. When you wake tomorrow, the day will again demand a ruler. Let it be you, and when you meet yourself in the mirror, don't ask whether you feel like it. Ask whether you're ready to govern. Then do what governors do. Set the law, keep the law, and serve something larger than your comfort. In that practice, you will discover the strange and beautiful thing the Stoics knew. Freedom is not found in having more options, but in needing fewer. And the strongest therapy is not a single hour. It is the way you live all the others. In the last conversation, we spoke about mirrors, not just the glass that throws your image back at you, but the quiet judge that reflects your standard before the world ever gets a chance to. We ended with a vow to govern the day instead of negotiating with it. Keep that feeling close, because today we take that same power and place it in your mouth. If the mirror shows your discipline, your words reveal your dominion. Words are not decorations, they are instruments, levers, contracts. They instruct your nervous system how to show up. They train the people around you how to treat you. They either build a fortress for your character or leave the gates swinging open for every storm to walk in. You don't need more quotes on your wall. You need fewer permissions on your tongue. The Stoics understood this with a terrifying simplicity. Language is the chisel of the mind. Speak carelessly, and your days crumble into sand. Speak cleanly, and your spine remembers its work. So let's continue the path we began. Yesterday you dressed your body with intention. Today you will dress your speech. We are going to identify 8 small words that look harmless, even friendly, but quietly drain your will, dilute your standards, and sell your future for a discount. Removing them is not about sounding clever or righteous, it's about preserving sovereignty. The transformation will be immediate. Your posture changes when your sentences stop carrying excuses. Your schedule hardens when your vocabulary stops letting you off the hook. And because this is not theater, we will not shout, we will practice. I will talk directly to you, the way a coach grips your shoulders and steadies your gaze. Not to scold you, but to give you the weapon you forgot you were allowed to carry. The first of these words is small and lethal. Can't. You know how it slides out, soft and reasonable, like a sigh with grammar. I can't wake up early. I can't save money. I can't say no to them. It feels honest. It presents itself like a weather report, neutral, factual, inevitable. But listen closely to what can't does to your mind. It removes the lever of choice. It paints your circumstances physics, when in truth it's preference, fear, or trade-off. The Stoics would drag can't into the light and ask the question you're avoiding. Is this a law of nature, or is it a cost you refuse to pay? Most of the time, can't is won't, dressed for sympathy. I can't wake early often means I won't trade nighttime scrolling for morning clarity. I can't save often means I won't endure the short-term discomfort of not buying what soothes me now. I can't confront them often means I won't risk being misunderstood. Do you feel the difference? Can't removes your agency. Won't exposes it. The mind hears can't and closes the door without even touching the handle. The mind hears won't and sees a decision, a price, a path. This is not about shame, it's about accuracy. When you replace can't with won't, you stop telling yourself stories that make you powerless and start telling yourself the truth that can set you free. You might still choose won't, by the way. There are days when the answer is no and wisdom agrees. But now you're an author, not a victim. Your nervous system stands up straighter because the pilot is back in the seat. If you've lived under a long can't, expect friction when you switch. Your body is used to outsourcing responsibility. Keep going. Say it out loud. I won't. See how it sharpens you. See how it either awakens courage or forces a clean refusal. Both are dignity. And once you reclaim this lever, you will notice the cousin of can't that lives in your calendar. It doesn't deny ability, it delays it into fantasy. It's the word that wraps your goals in cotton and keeps them safely far away. That word is someday. Someday is a lullaby for ambition. It tucks your best work into a cradle and rocks it until it never learns to stand. Someday I'll write the book. Someday we'll talk. Someday I'll be disciplined. Stoically speaking, someday is procrastination baptized as hope. It lets you feel virtuous without doing anything. The problem isn't optimism, the problem is vagueness. Life cannot schedule a fog. The mind cannot execute a mist. When you say someday, your brain files it in a cabinet labeled not real, and then goes searching for real tasks, emails, errands, other people's emergencies. The day fills with noise, and at night you resent the day for obeying your language. The antidote is not drama, it is the calendar. Replace someday with a date, a duration, and a first action. On Tuesday at 7 a.m. for 30 minutes, I will outline Chapter 1 in bullet sentences. Tonight at 6:30, I will call and say 3 honest sentences. Tomorrow at lunch, I will map the next 4 weeks of workouts. Feel the difference? The nervous system relaxes because the mission is clear. Stoicism is allergic to vagueness because vagueness breeds excuses. The world will collude with your some days by staying busy and demanding nothing higher from you. This is why the practice must be ruthless and tender at once. Tender because you'll grieve the years you put your life to sleep. Ruthless because you will no longer allow yourself the comfort of non-commitment. There is another reason to kill someday. It robs today of its dignity. When the present is always a waiting room for a glamorous future, you train yourself to disrespect the only hours you can actually touch. Choose a small, unglamorous start. Let it be clumsy. Let it be private. Do it on a day no one would expect. Then do it again. You will build a spine out of dates, not dreams. And when your plans are on real pages, you'll need the next purification, because a different word will begin to corrode your progress from the inside. It sounds moral, even noble. It isn't. It's a velvet handcuff. Should. Should is a courtroom word, and the defendant is always you. I should be further by now. I should work out. I should stop reacting. The Stoics cared about duties, yes, but they cared more about clarity. Should masquerades as a compass. In reality, it's fog. It doesn't specify who, when, how, or why. It just condemns. That's why should breeds guilt without action. You feel bad, you promise bigger, you change nothing. The mind becomes a preacher that never picks up a hammer. Replace should with either will or won't, and then add the smallest concrete next step. I will work out 10 push-ups after I brush my teeth. I won't check my phone in bed. The charger lives in the kitchen. I will invest in my career. Send 2 emails asking for feedback at 9 a.m. Listen to how the air clears. The judge leaves the room. The builder enters. There is an even deeper Stoic move here. Ask whether your should is truly yours or simply borrowed from culture, family, or fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself because he refused to live by imported mandates. If your should is about impressing an imaginary audience, dismiss the case. If it is about virtue, courage, justice, temperance, wisdom, then promote it from should to principle and let it govern your schedule, not your shame. Also notice how should infects relationships. They should know what I need. Number. Expectation without communication is resentment in incubation. Speak the request clearly, kindly, once. Then make a decision based on reality, not fantasy. When you cut should, you stop bullying yourself into a life you're not living and start committing to a life you will actually do. And yet, once you begin doing, another word will leak into your sentences like water into a ship. It sounds like effort, but it is permission to remain vague. It is the word try. Try is the soft handshake of self-betrayal. I'll try to be on time. I'll try to quit. I'll try to focus. It sounds cooperative. It is evasive. Try announces intention without responsibility for outcome. The Stoic alternative is not perfectionism. It is commitment plus process. Instead of, I'll try to be on time, say, I will be on time by leaving 15 minutes earlier than I think I need to. Instead of, I'll try to quit, say, I will not buy the thing I'm quitting. I will not keep it in my house. I will text this person if I feel the craving. Instead of, I'll try to focus, say, I will work in 25-minute blocks with my phone in another room. Notice how try keeps your identity floating. Will anchors it to behaviors. Sometimes you will fail even with this clarity. Good. Now you can adjust the process. Why was I late? Because I underestimated travel and didn't account for parking. What changes? I leave 25 minutes earlier. Failure becomes feedback instead of an identity wound. There is another toxin hidden inside try. It keeps your relationships guessing. When you tell someone, "I'll try," you ask them to absorb your uncertainty. You distribute your lack of commitment like a tax on the people who trust you. You don't need to become brutal. You need to become binary. Yes or no. If it's no, say no with kindness and without a monologue. If it's yes, back it with a plan. You will find your energy returning because you stop carrying the cognitive load of 1,000 half-promises. Now, as you purify intention, beware of the absolute words your emotions love to spray on everything like graffiti. They are cousins, dramatic and addictive. We will name only one of them here, and if you remove it, its sibling loses power too. That word is always. Always is a liar. They always do this. I always mess things up. It's always like this. The brain loves absolutes because they make emotions feel justified, but they also make your thinking stupid. The Stoics prized accurate perception. Always shatters accuracy. It converts a specific moment into a permanent identity, a single mistake into a prophecy, a rough week into a doomed life. Replace always with a measured description. This happened 3 times this month. I made 2 errors on that project. This week has been heavy. Listen to the pressure leave your chest when the math becomes honest. Precision is merciful. It gives you a scale to work with, which means you can improve. If a teammate has missed 3 deadlines, you can address that pattern respectfully and propose a process change. If you missed 2, you can dissect your workflow and fix the inputs. Absolute words also wreck intimacy. "You always ignore me" invites an argument about the word always, instead of a conversation about a real need. Try this instead. "When I was sharing just now and you looked at your phone, I felt unimportant." Can we try again? That sentence is stoic in its bones, factual, specific, oriented toward action. Also beware of the flip side absolute, never. If your mouth loves always, it usually loves never too. The cure is the same, trade drama for data. An interesting thing happens when you stop using absolutes. You stop living inside them. The world becomes less catastrophic and more workable. Solutions become visible where verdicts once stood. And in the newly cleared space, you will notice another word that looks admirable on the surface, but is a thief underneath. It has even become a badge, a humble brag. It is the word busy. Busy has replaced important as the modern status signal, but it is a confession, not a crown. When you say, "I'm busy," you're not describing a virtue. You're admitting a lack of boundaries, priorities, or honesty. The Stoic standard treats time as sacred. Busyness is profanation, motion without meaning, noise without music. Every "I'm busy" secretly teaches people you are a poor steward of your attention. It also gives you an alibi for not doing the work that matters and not being present with the people you love. Replace "I'm busy" with either "I'm committed" or "that's not a priority." Say it quietly to yourself first. "I didn't call because it wasn't a priority." That sentence will sting, but that sting is tonic. It returns your agency. If calling is a priority, schedule it instead of apologizing endlessly. If it isn't, tell the truth and accept the consequences of alignment. Another better replacement for busy is a clear time proposal. "I can't do today at noon. I can do Wednesday at 4 p.m. for 15 minutes. This trains your world to interact with your calendar, not with your chaos. Also, retire the reflex of answering "How are you?" with "busy." That answer instructs your nervous system to live in permanent alarm. Try, "I'm focused on X," or "I'm pacing myself." Your body will listen. Busyness seduces because it feels like progress, but motion is not movement. To a Stoic, full calendars can hide empty lives. Freeing yourself from busy will force you to face what you actually value and to endure the silence where you used to hide. That silence is fertile. In it, you will hear the next dangerous word that sneaks into your self-talk when you are tired or entitled. It sounds like justice. It becomes poison. The word is deserve. Deserve is a trapdoor under your feet. I deserve better. I deserve a break. I deserve this success. The Stoic mind avoids deserve because the universe doesn't trade in your moral accounting. It trades in cause and effect. You are owed nothing by reality. This is not cruel, it is clarifying. When you abandon deserve, you stop arguing with life and start partnering with it. Replace I deserve with I have earned, I choose, or I will create. I have earned rest because I worked with focus for 4 hours. I choose a break now because recovery sustains excellence. I will create opportunities by sending 10 pitches. Do you feel the difference? Deserve tries to outsource your outcomes to a cosmic HR department. Earn, choose, and create bring the levers back into your hands. There is a subtlety here. This is not an invitation to self-denial or martyrdom. Honor your needs, celebrate your wins, but root them in action, not entitlement. In relationships, I deserve better can be a fog that hides your lack of boundaries. Be precise. I am unwilling to be in a relationship where yelling happens. If it happens again, I will leave. That is not deserve, that is standard. In work, I deserve a raise becomes I will present the value I've created and ask for compensation that matches it. The world responds to clarity, not to complaint. Also, be suspicious when deserve appears right before a harmful impulse. I deserve this donut after the day I've had. I deserve a break from my budget. I deserve to vent. Translate those into costs and choices. I choose the donut and accept the energy crash. I choose to break the budget and delay the goal. I choose to vent and risk damaging trust. Now you stand in front of the truth, not behind a curtain of entitlement. And standing in truth is the whole point. There is one more word that seems tiny, harmless, even polite, but it weakens every request you make of yourself and others. It is the minimizer that shrinks your life while apologizing for existing. The word is just. Just is the word you use when you're trying not to take up space. I just wanted to check in. I'm just wondering if it's just a small project. In your self-talk, it whispers, it's just one more episode. It's just 5 minutes late. It's just this once. The Stoic path is not about being loud. It is about being exact. Just is the opposite of exact. It erases weight, hides costs, and teaches your brain to underestimate everything: your needs, your time, your impact, your temptations. Replace just with the honest measure. I wanted to check in. I'm asking whether we can move the deadline. This project will take 4 focused hours. When you talk to yourself, strip just from the sentence and notice how accountability returns. It's one more episode. It's 5 minutes late. It's this once. Now you'll feel the friction you were masking. And friction is useful data. Sometimes you will still choose the episode, the lateness, the indulgence, but you will choose it awake. In leadership, just makes you sound unsure. I just think maybe we could becomes I recommend we do X because Y. Feedback welcome. In relationships, I just need a minute becomes I need 10 minutes alone. I'll come back at 5:40. Your confidence rises because your language stops apologizing for your existence. There is a compassionate edge here too. When giving feedback, just can soften into manipulation. Just be more confident is not feedback, it's fantasy. Replace it with a behavior. Look at the audience every sentence. Plant your feet. Pause after key lines. That is Stoic. Concrete, repeatable, within control. Removing just from your speech will feel like standing up out of a crouch you forgot you were in. The room has not changed. Your height has. And when you take that height into the world tomorrow morning, you will need a summary you can carry in your pocket. A way to keep these shifts from evaporating in the heat of the day. Here is the living thread that runs through everything we've changed. You replaced can't with won't, returning choice to its throne. You replaced someday with dates on a calendar so your goals could touch the ground. You replaced should with will or won't, ending the courtroom and starting the workshop. You replaced try with plans and process, exchanging vagueness for craft. You replaced always with accurate counts, letting truth loosen fear's grip. You replaced busy with priorities and proposals, building a cathedral around your hours. You replaced deserve with earn, choose or create, withdrawing your life from the bank of entitlement. You replaced just with honest measures, standing at your full height without apology. Do you hear the music? Each swap pulls you away from fantasy and back toward agency. Each change cuts a rope from your ankle. The mind you bring to your life tomorrow will be clearer, slower to panic, and faster to act. You've been practicing Stoicism without ever needing the label. Clean perception, disciplined action, and a will aligned with nature instead of arguing with it. Now translate this into today. Don't turn it into a mood. Turn it into a sentence you actually speak. When you catch yourself saying, I can't, stop mid-syllable and say, I won't. Make your face feel what your mouth decided. When you hear someday forming, open your calendar and claim a small square of time like land you intend to farm. When should hovers, choose, will or won't, and attach the smallest next physical move. When try tempts you, ask for the plan that would make try unnecessary. When always hisses, count on your fingers, the lie will wither. When busy reaches for your tongue, speak instead your priority or propose a slot that respects both your life and theirs. When deserve flares, translate it to choose, earn, or create, and feel your spine return. When just crouches in your sentence, stand it up or delete it, and watch your request become something an adult would say. This is not ceremony. This is practice, the kind that survives bad sleep and loud days. And if you crave an image to carry with you, imagine a craftsman at a workbench. The tools are simple, the wood is ordinary, the light is clean. Every morning they lay out the same instruments and begin again. They don't ask whether they deserve a finished table. They measure, they cut, they sand, they fit, they correct. They do not say someday, they look at the clock. They do not say try, they test and adjust. They speak little, and what they speak is accurate. This is you, not glamorous, not trending, but sovereign. If yesterday the mirror became your altar, today your words become your oath. Keep it. Keep it on the days you don't feel like it, especially then. Because character is not what you post, it's what you repeat. There will be setbacks. You will catch yourself in an old phrase the way you catch an old habit in your hands. Do not curse yourself. Correct yourself. The correction itself is the proof you are becoming who you promised to be. Over time, people will notice without understanding why. Your presence will feel heavier, not with stress, but with substance. Their nervous systems will relax around you because your words match reality. Opportunities will begin to trust you because your calendar does. Your relationships will breathe because your requests are clean. Your nights will soften because your days were governed. Stoicism was never about being made of stone. It was about being made of principles. Each word you removed made room for one. Each sentence you purified made space for a standard to take root. So let's end the way we began, with a decision that touches your spine. Choose one conversation today where you will practice this completely. Maybe it's with yourself at 6 a.m. when can't knocks. Maybe it's with a colleague at 10 when busy offers you a shield. Maybe it's with your partner at 7 when always begs to burn down a small disagreement. Choose the moment now. See it. Hear yourself speak the stronger sentence. Watch the tiny hinge swing a large door. Then tomorrow, choose another and another. This is how lives change, quietly, consistently, sentence by sentence, until one day you notice your voice has stopped asking permission to be the author of your days. The mirror will recognize you. Your work will recognize you. The child inside you, the one that kept knocking, will finally step into the room and take a seat at the table you built. And when doubt visits, as it always will, you will know what to tell it, not with anger, but with clean language that leaves no space for confusion. I won't. I will. Here is when. Here is how. In the last conversation, we tuned your language, stripped the noise from your sentences, and you felt how a single clean word could tilt the entire day. Keep that sensation close. The spine-straightening effect of speaking from standards, not moods, because today we are going to move the same honesty from your mouth into your muscles. We are going to take Stoicism off the page and stitch it into the hours that no one sees. If words are contracts, habits are the payments you make on those contracts every morning and every night. The mirror doesn't only reflect your face, it reflects your rituals. Your future is not waiting to be found, it is begging to be repeated. You will not drift to the life you want, you will arrive by routine. So, I'm going to talk to you as if you were the captain of a ship you forgot you were piloting, not with drama, with clarity. Because what you do regularly, you become inevitably. Master your habits and reality stops being a rumor and starts being a report. The first movement begins with identity, because every habit is a vote, and every vote elects a self. You've tried to change behavior by wrestling with willpower, like pushing a boulder up a hill with bare hands. The Stoic path is simpler and stronger. Change who you claim to be, and the boulder starts rolling with you. When your identity is the kind of person who keeps small promises, getting up at your alarm is not a heroic act. It is a routine act that proves your claim true. The mind wants consistency more than it wants comfort. So set a name for yourself that makes the right actions feel congruent and the wrong ones feel foreign. If you tell yourself, I am a calm, disciplined steward of my time, your body will begin scanning for behaviors that match. You'll reach for the calendar before the excuse. You'll pause before you react. This is not magical thinking, it's neurological housekeeping. The brain hates dissonance. Give it a clean song to play, and it will retune your impulses to match the melody. But identity isn't a costume you put on once. It's a uniform you have to earn daily. This is why we start small. You do not need to run a marathon to become a runner. You need to lace your shoes and step out the door for 5 honest minutes, repeatedly. Each time you act, you cast a vote for that identity. Keep the votes tiny but daily. You will feel silly sometimes, performing what seems insignificant. Remember, the insignificant becomes the inevitable when repeated. That is the quiet violence of habit. And when your identity starts guiding your choices, you no longer argue with yourself in the dark. You simply do what people like you do. That peace is worth more than motivation. From here, we move to the stage you cannot avoid, the room you live in. Because character is a decision, but it is also a design. Your environment is either a coach or a thief. Most people lose not because they lack discipline, but because they live inside a slot machine of cues they never arranged. Stoicism is not only about inner fortitude, it's also about outer architecture. You don't have to white-knuckle your way through a pantry designed by your cravings. You don't have to fight your phone if your phone sleeps beside you like a siren. Design is mercy. Put friction in front of what weakens you and remove friction from what strengthens you. Keep your shoes by the door and your weights where you can see them. Put your notebook and pen on the pillow before you brush your teeth so night you is forced to trip over morning you's plan. Move the apps that drain you off your home screen. Better, delete them for a season and watch your mind come back to a kind of silence you forgot existed. People think this is childish. It is the opposite. It is mature to accept that biology beats intention by noon if you don't arrange the room. It is humble to admit that you are a creature of triggers and to choose them wisely. This is not about living in a museum of self-help props. It is about living honestly within your own tendencies. If sugar is your weakness, do not host it and expect yourself to be a saint at 11 p.m. If procrastination hides in disorder, make tidying the desk part of ending your day, not a special event. The Stoic doesn't brag about resisting temptation. The Stoic avoids it. That's not cowardice. That's strategy. Control the inputs and you calm the outputs. And when the room supports you, the next move becomes possible. You will begin to leverage friction like a sculptor uses a chisel. There is a science to making good habits effortless and bad habits annoying. The mind follows the path of least resistance. You can be the engineer of that path. Increase friction on behaviors that shrink you. Put your streaming password on a sticky note in another room so you cannot fall into it by reflex. Store the snacks on the highest shelf in a container you have to open with 2 hands, standing on a chair. Put your credit card in a zip pouch, buried in your bag, so impulse buys feel like picking a lock. Each second of extra effort is a speed bump that wakes your awareness and gives your wiser self time to re-enter the scene. Then do the reverse for habits you want to install. Lay out your gym clothes the night before. Prepare the exact water bottle, the exact playlist, the exact first warm-up movement. Decision-making is the tax on behavior. Prepay the tax when you're calm, or you'll evade the habit when you're tired. It's the same at work. Want to write? Open the document the night before, title the next paragraph "Bad First Pass," and put the first ugly sentence beneath it. That little bit of momentum will protect you from the morning's perfectionism. Want to read more? Put the book on your pillow so you must move it to sleep. Touch is a cue. Weight is a cue. Visibility is a cue. Each cue is a nudge from the future you promised yourself. There is elegance here. You are not bullying yourself, you are shepherding yourself. The sheep obey the path, not the lecture. And once friction and flow are in their places, we can talk about a deeper device the Stoics used long before our vocabulary caught up: the pre-commitment. Promises made in a calm hour are the guards who protect you in the storm. You need commitments that survive mood swings. The Stoic version is wonderfully practical. Write down the if-then rules you live by. If I feel the urge to scroll before work, then I put my phone in the kitchen and set a 25-minute timer. If I miss a workout, then I do 5 minutes of bodyweight movement before bed. If I'm invited to an event that conflicts with my priority project, then I will decline with a single sentence and propose a call next week. These are not slogans, they are protocols. Protocols beat emotions. You don't have to negotiate with your lesser self at 4 p.m. The 9 a.m. version of you already wrote the law. Notice how this removes shame from the loop. There is no drama, only execution. If you fail to follow your protocol, you revise it like an engineer. Reduce the scope, strengthen the cue, add a public check. That last piece matters. Pre-commitment gains power in daylight. Tell someone you respect what you'll do and by when, not the internet, a person who looks you in the eye. Accountability should be intimate, not performative. You're not trying to impress, you're trying to be consistent. The mind stands taller when it knows its word will be witnessed. Tie a tiny stake in the ground. I'll send you the first 2 pages by Thursday at 5. And the week suddenly has shape. The protocol focuses you. And once the shapes are clear, we go to the hinge on which your whole day swings, your morning and your night. Because the middle of the day follows the edges. Your morning is a vote for the rest of your hours. Your night is a vote for your morning. If you master these thresholds, the day falls in line like a procession. Start here. Give yourself a morning minimum and a night minimum that you protect even on hard days. Not the fantasy routine with 9 steps. A minimum that survives travel, stress, and rain. Morning minimum: 1 glass of water, 1 page of plan, 1 minute of breath, and 1 deliberate move of your body. That's it. Water, plan, breath, move. No screens until you've paid that price of admission to your day. The content of the plan is simple. 1 essential that must happen, 1 obstacle you expect, 1 safeguard you will use, 1 person you will serve. If you put this on paper, your mind will obey the ink like a soldier obeys orders. The breath is to calm your nervous system on purpose, instead of letting anxiety set your pace. The movement is a signal to your biology that you are ready to act. It doesn't need to be epic. 10 push-ups count. The night minimum is equally simple. 1 sweep of your space, 1 list of what you closed, 1 sentence to your future self, 1 time you will sleep. Sweep because order is an exhale. Write what you closed because the brain loves completion and will stop nagging you for proof. Leave 1 sentence for morning you. Open the laptop, press record, ignore email until 10. Choose a bedtime the way you choose a meeting with someone powerful, because that's what sleep is. A meeting where your memory consolidates, your hormones rebalance, your judgment strengthens. When you discipline these edges, the day in between starts obeying the fences. And when the edges hold, we can build the keystones, those few habits that move 10 other things without asking. Some habits are levers that make the others light. The Stoics favored the kind that sharpen perception and regulate emotion, because from those, right action follows naturally. Choose a keystone you can love for its effect, not for its image. Perhaps it is walking outside without headphones for 15 minutes every day, letting your thoughts declutter and your eyes look far. Movement plus light is medicine you can prescribe to yourself without a pharmacy. Perhaps it is writing a daily sentence about what you fear and what you can do, because fear named is fear halved. Perhaps it's a cold rinse at the end of your shower, not to play hero, but to remind your body that you can choose discomfort on purpose. And if you can choose it, you can endure it when it chooses you. Perhaps it's preparing tomorrow's workspace before you end today's. So beginning doesn't demand courage, it merely demands arrival. Notice how none of these require an audience. The Stoic leaves applause on the table and picks up agency. With keystones set, complexity fades. You no longer juggle 100 tasks. You protect a handful of rituals that make the tasks easier by gravity. There is a paradox. When you reduce your commitments, your results multiply. Not because you are doing less, but because the right few habits are doing more than you imagined. You will start to feel a quiet power, the kind that comes when impulse loses its right to interrupt you. But even the best-kept keystones shatter if you insist on all or nothing thinking. So we build what rescues you when you fall, minimums and resets. Perfection is the enemy that wears your face. It tells you that if you can't do the full routine, you might as well do nothing. Stoicism laughs at that melodrama. Virtue is not theatrical, it is steady. So construct 2 layers for every habit, your standard day and your storm day. On a standard day, you do the full plan. On a storm day, you do the minimum that keeps the identity alive. If your standard is 45 minutes of training, your storm is 5 minutes of movement. If your standard is 1,000 words, your storm is 1 ugly paragraph. If your standard is a full deep clean, your storm is clearing the surfaces and washing the sink. This isn't laziness, it's loyalty to the identity when the weather is bad. Minimums prevent 0 days, and 0 days are where momentum dies. Alongside minimums, install the sacred reset. The moment you notice a slide, 3 days off, a weekend lost, your job is not to confess online or hate yourself into paralysis. Your job is to perform the reset ritual within 24 hours. The ritual is simple. Forgive the lapse without negotiation, do the smallest version of the habit now, and touch your plan for tomorrow. That's it. You will be tempted to design a punishment. Don't. Punishment trains you to fear the work. Reset trains you to return to it. In time, you will become the kind of person whose lapses are shorter than other people's excuses. That reputation with yourself is gold. And as you return, you will notice a subtle pressure that tries to warp your habit into a brand. You'll want to show it off, to prove it. Resist that. This is where we add ballast, service. Habits that end with you end quickly. Habits that feed others endure. It's hard to quit on a routine that someone else is counting on. The Stoics weren't private ascetics. They were citizens. Aim your personal discipline outward in at least one place. If you rise early to write, write something that teaches or relieves. If you train, mentor a beginner once a week so your strength becomes a bridge. If you tidy your home, invite people to your table so your order becomes hospitality, not performance. Service anchors habit to meaning. Suddenly, your morning pages are not about your image. They are about the clarity you deliver at 2 p.m. to the team that needs you. Your run is not about the watch. It is about the stamina you bring to your children on the floor after dinner. Your budgeting is not about restriction. It is about the generosity you can afford without anxiety. When habit carries others, quitting feels like dropping someone. You will still fail sometimes. You will still have days where you shrink, but meaning will pull you back faster than vanity ever could. And when you are pulled back, capture the lesson with the final discipline that makes all of this a flywheel: review. A life without review is a story without paragraphs, breathless and blurry. The Stoics wrote to themselves because clarity grows under the pen. Give yourself 3 short reviews, one at night, one at week's end, one at the month's turn. Night review is a page, not a book. Where did I act from principle? Where did impulse hijack me? What small fix will I use tomorrow? Name the cue you missed, the friction you lacked, the safeguard you'll add. Week review is a conversation with your calendar. Did my schedule match my stated priorities? If not, which habit failed me first? Sleep, plan, boundary, move blocks, cancel masquerades. Put your keystone where the best hours live. Month review is a longer look. What identity did my actions vote for? What did I move from hope to habit? Where did I drift into all or nothing? Decide a theme, not a dozen goals. Maybe it's depth over breadth. Finish what I start, or one screen at a time. Let that theme tint your choices until the next turn. The act of reviewing does 3 merciful things. It converts guilt into adjustments, it turns results into instructions, and it keeps you from being surprised by patterns that were visible weeks ago. You do not need to analyze yourself into paralysis. You need to check your course like a pilot, often, briefly, calmly. And with each review, your days stop being a blur and become a series of deliberate strokes. That is when confidence grows silent and real. Now let's talk about the friction you cannot design away: cravings, moods, and chaos. The Stoic response isn't to pretend they won't come. It's to build rituals that let them visit without taking the house. Start by changing your relationship with urges. An urge is not a command, it is a weather report. When it arrives, label it, breathe it, move your body, wait 2 minutes, and decide. Name it out loud. This is the urge to check my phone. Labeling shifts activity from the limbic system to the prefrontal cortex. You move from animal to pilot. Then breathe, a long exhale 6 times. The exhale signals safety. Then stand up. Motion breaks fixation. Then wait 2 minutes before you act. Most urges are cheap fireworks, bright, loud, and gone if you don't light the fuse. If the urge persists, negotiate a smaller concession with yourself, not a full surrender. I will check for 2 minutes after I finish this paragraph. Often, after 2 minutes, you won't even want it. This seems too simple. It is. That's why it works. Pair this with a ritual for emotional spikes. When anger rises, your rule is posture and pace. Relax your shoulders, lower your voice, slow your words. External calm backfeeds internal calm. When sadness drags your feet, your rule is light and legs. Go outside, walk 10 minutes, eyes on horizons. Biochemistry obeys nature. Help it. When anxiety throws your thoughts into a blender, your rule is paper beats panic. Write what you fear, write what you control, write the next physical action. Most storms do not require heroism, they require a procedure. And still, there will be days when the procedure fails and habit feels far away. Those days are not verdicts, they are tuition. Pay it by returning to the smallest rule you can keep. Sovereignty is not the absence of chaos. It is the ability to proceed inside it. You may ask, where is the joy in all this structure? Isn't Stoicism stern? That's the misunderstanding of those who never practiced it. Joy grows best in fields with fences. Pleasure without standards becomes a hangover. Pleasure inside habit becomes gratitude. The coffee after a 20-minute deep work sprint tastes like celebration. The screen time after tasks are closed feels like leisure, not anesthesia. The rest day after 6 honest sessions feels like reward, not escape. Stoicism is not about dampening your life. It is about intensifying it with intention. When you choose your habits, you choose your flavor of freedom. There is a freedom that looks like anything at any time. It dissolves into emptiness. There is a freedom that looks like what you promised yourself at this time. It ripens into greatness. Which do you want to taste? The answer does not need to be spoken. It needs to be repeated. So bring it all together the way a craftsman arranges tools at dawn. Identity first. Say who you are becoming and let your behavior argue in your favor. Environment next. Make your room a teammate, not a test. Friction management. Padlock the pathways to what robs you. Grease the runners to what feeds you. Pre-commitments. Write laws while you're steady that will govern you when you're not. Edges. Guard morning and night like a gatekeeper who loves the city. Keystones. Pick the habits that topple 10 others. Minimums and resets. Keep the ember alive, even in the rain, and relight without ceremony when it dims. Service. Aim your discipline outward so it survives your moods. Review. Count, adjust, and proceed. Storm rituals. Let urges pass like weather and return to your work. Taste the hidden joy that grows when you keep quiet promises to yourself across unremarkable days. Then watch what happens to your reality, not in a week of excitement, but in a season of repetition. Because transformation isn't a thunderclap. It is the sound of a door opening at the same time every morning. It is the whisper of a page being turned. It is the sink shining at night. It is the weight racked after the set you didn't want to do. It is the message sent when you said you'd send it. It is the program closed at 9 p.m. because tomorrow deserves a rested mind. One day, a stranger will call you disciplined. Smile quietly because you will know the truth. You were not born disciplined. You were born human. Then you designed your days until discipline felt like home. That is Stoicism in practice. Not an opinion about life, but the layout of a life that protects what matters. I want you to leave with one move, not a mood. Choose a habit right now that would make other decisions easier. Make it so small it would be embarrassing to skip. Attach it to a daily cue you already have. Prepare its tools before you sleep. Write your if-then rule. Decide your storm day minimum. Name who will benefit from it besides you. When you wake, perform it before you negotiate. When you miss, reset without drama. When you're bored, remember boredom is the sensation of a new identity forming. When you want to quit, zoom out and count the votes you've already cast. And at the end of the month, read your journal and meet the person your repetition has been quietly building. Master yourself does not mean control everything that happens. It means control what you do, no matter what happens. That is the root of freedom the Stoics planted and watered across centuries. You have felt glimpses of it, the day the phone stayed in another room and your mind felt like a clean room. The week you kept your word to yourself and your voice sounded different in your own ears. The night you slept on time and woke with a sense of authorship that money can't buy. Now turn glimpses into ground. Turn ground into a path. Turn a path into a way of life. The mirror will nod back at you like an old friend. Your work will begin to trust you. Your people will relax in your presence. And you will carry the quiet weight of someone who does not need permission from the world to become who they promised to be. Stand up, touch the table, breathe once, long and honest. Speak your identity under your breath so only you can hear it. Set the cue, place the tool, close the doorway of excuses you used yesterday. Open the one habit that unlocks the rest. Then step through. The world outside may be chaotic. Your reality, built by the rituals you govern, will not be. That is mastery. Not loud, not dramatic, repeated. And if anyone asks how you changed your life, there is only one answer that is both humble and true. I changed what I repeated, and repetition changed me. In the last conversation, we talked about habits, the quiet engine beneath every result you admire in others and keep postponing in yourself. We ended with a decision, not to wait for motivation to appear, but to build mornings that don't need it. Keep that decision warm in your hands, because today we move from structure to steering. If habits are the road, questions are the wheel. The words you ask yourself at dawn don't just skim the surface of your mood, they set the coordinates of your day. Ask small questions and you'll live a small morning. Ask clean, demanding questions and you'll pull your whole life forward by noon. Most people wake up and drift. Their first thoughts are borrowed. Alerts, headlines, the collective anxiety of 10,000 strangers in their pocket. The mind becomes a crowded room before the day has earned the right to enter. So, your first act of sovereignty is to lock the door for a few minutes and meet your own eyes. The Stoics did this before there were phones to steal their attention. Marcus wrote to himself. Epictetus spoke to his students as if to his future self. Seneca rehearsed his day as a general rehearses a campaign. They didn't ask, "What do I feel like?" They asked, "What is required? What is mine to do? What will I refuse?" Questions like these cut through fog. They turn scattered intention into aim. I'm going to place 9 questions into your morning. 9 precise prompts that activate the best part of you. They're not slogans. They're not spells. They are levers. Pull them and your posture changes. Your priorities harden. Your excuses have nowhere to sit. Each question is a mirror and a map. A mirror because it shows you your current stance without flattery. A map because it routes your strength toward what matters. Take them one at a time. Breathe before you answer. Write if you can. Spoken answers evaporate. Written ones become law. If you repeat them for a month, you won't need to memorize them. Your day will. Begin with the one that restores your power faster than coffee does. What is truly under my control today? You already know the philosophy, but mornings are where you turn it into practice. Life is a storm of variables you can't bend. Other people's moods, traffic, timing, the market, the weather, the way a stranger speaks your name. If you aim at what doesn't belong to you, you start the day in defeat. When you ask, "What is under my control today?" you build a small, strong country inside your chest. The borders are clear. Your judgments, your choices, your words, your standards, your attention. That's it. The temptation is to treat this like a poster on a dorm room wall. Pretty, ignored. Don't list it. My effort on the one essential, my response when interrupted, my tone when I ask for what I need, my rule for the phone, my bedtime tonight. See how the mind calms when you stop trying to legislate the weather. There's a second half to this question. After you choose the controllables, decide how you will measure the day by them. Not by outcomes, but by fidelity. If the meeting implodes, but you told the truth with grace, you win. If the workout stalled but you protected the time, you win. If the conversation stung but you refused to rehearse the insult for hours, you win. This isn't participation trophy philosophy. It is sanity. It keeps your spine straight in a world that keeps changing the scoreboard. You'll be tempted to drift back to the global, to scroll and fight the ocean. Ask the question again. Pull your attention back like a loyal dog and tie it to the post of what is yours to do. The day becomes quiet inside, even as it stays loud outside. Hold that quiet for the second question, the one that gives your day a shape and your character a witness. Who do I want to be by nightfall? This is not an affirmation recited in a bathroom mirror. It's a brief, honest vision. You are deciding what version of you will crawl into bed and look back at the trail. Picture them. Do they look hurried and apologetic, or do they look used well, tired in the right places? What did they prioritize? Where did they refuse themselves? What did they keep sacred? Be specific. By nightfall, I want to be the person who told one difficult truth without a tremor. By nightfall, I want to be the person whose word was visible in the calendar. By nightfall, I want to be the person who did not outsource their mood to a screen. When you do this, you shift your morning from appetite to authorship. The day stops being a blur of tasks. It becomes a character arc. Why does this matter? Because identity pulls harder than intention. The brain obeys the story you give it, especially if that story is short and can be checked. Your future self becomes a coach, not a fantasy. Later, when the moment of compromise arrives, when a cheap distraction puts its hand on your sleeve, you won't have to invent willpower. You'll remember the person you promised to deliver by night. Compared to that person, the lure looks small. Add a ceremony to this. Put one object on your desk that represents the quality you're electing today. A smooth stone for calm, a pen for clarity, a small weight for resilience. It looks trivial. Trivial things repeated become towers. And because towers require foundation, we move to the next question, the one that prevents drift by anchoring the day to one decisive brick. What one essential, if completed, makes today a win? Ambition loves lists. Excellence loves focus. If everything is important, nothing has authority. When you ask, what one essential makes today a win? You're forcing rank on your desires. The answer cannot be vague. It cannot be work on project. It must be something you could explain to a stranger and check off without wiggle room. Draft the opening scene. Close the 3 invoices. 30 minutes of uninterrupted practice on scales. 45 minutes of deep work on the budget with the phone in another room. The Stoic move is to plant this essential as early as you can defend. Treat it like an appointment with a person you revere. Show up not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. Expect resistance here. The mind will offer heroic alternatives. What if I clean the entire house instead? What if I plan the next 12 weeks? That's not productivity, that's avoidance wearing a cape. You aren't trying to look busy in a montage. You're trying to build a day that respects the few things that move the mountain. Protect the essential with fences, a start time, a length, a place, a boundary for interruptions. If the essential is relational, an honest conversation, prepare 3 sentences and breathe before you speak. If the essential is physical, lay your clothes out like an argument your laziness can't win. When you've done it, stop and acknowledge the truth. You could lose a dozen skirmishes today and still win the war because you did the one thing that mattered, but the world still throws stones. Which is why the 4th question meets reality with clear eyes. What is likely to go wrong, and how will I respond? Premeditatio malorum is not pessimism, it's professionalism. Most days fail not because the goal was bad, but because the surprises weren't pre-seen. When you ask, what is likely to go wrong, you release your day from the tyranny of shock. Picture the interruption, the call that stretches, the email that stings, the body that feels heavier than you hoped, the traffic that makes you late, the co-worker whose mood bleeds into the room, the sudden temptation to scroll yourself into amnesia. Then answer the second half. And how will I respond? Not theoretically, procedurally. If the call runs long, I will end it with, I need to jump. Send me the next step in an email. If the workout feels impossible, I will reduce the weight and complete the sets. If I am cut off in traffic, I will say, not mine, and loosen my grip from the wheel on purpose. If I open the app, I will close it and put the phone in the kitchen for the next 25 minutes. This is not about becoming a robot. It's about having a spine. There's a deeper benefit. Rehearsed setbacks become less personal. The moment the struggle arrives, you recognize it as a guest you invited. Fear loses its favorite trick, surprise. Frustration loses its favorite costume, outrage. You trade complaint for protocol, and when you're not burning energy on indignation, you have energy for the question that prevents your discipline from shrinking into a private trophy. Whom will I serve today, and how? Stoicism isn't self-absorption. It's self-mastery bent toward contribution. Service doesn't require a stage, it requires intention. Ask, whom will I serve? And let a face appear, a teammate who needs clarity more than comfort, a partner who needs attention more than advice, a stranger who needs courtesy more than speed, a younger version of you who needs the mentorship you never received. Then define the how. I will send one useful note without asking for anything back. I will make the hard decision that frees others from guessing. I will add documentation so the next person finds the path clear. I will bring home a calm presence, not a leftover mood. Service makes your habits heavier in the best way. It's harder to break your word when someone else is hanging on it. It's harder to indulge distraction when your focus is the difference between someone's confusion and their progress. Notice what service does to the architecture of your day. It turns your essential from a merit badge into a gift. It turns your discipline from self-improvement into infrastructure. The private becomes public in its effect, and yet service without standards becomes martyrdom. So the next question draws a line on the ground and paints it in a color your lesser self can see. What standard will I not negotiate today? Standards are not slogans, they are fences you actually defend. Choose one. I do not lie, even by omission, to avoid discomfort. I do not carry my phone into deep work. I do not speak about someone who isn't present. I do not eat in front of a screen. I do not break bedtime for leisure. Just one. You are not writing a constitution, you are choosing a visible act of self-respect. The power here is not moral vanity, it is internal simplicity. When a standard is set, you stop negotiating. You spend less energy deciding and more energy doing. The first days you enforce it, expect pushback from yourself, from others who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Hold your ground without theater. The more quietly you enforce a standard, the more loudly it reshapes your life. Enforcing standards reveals something uncomfortable, the little corners where you hide avoidance and call it prudence. That's why the seventh question must be asked without blinking. What am I avoiding that would free today? Avoidance is a fog machine. It makes small tasks look massive at a distance, and it fills your chest with a pressure that has no name. When you name it, the fog thins. Ask, "What am I avoiding?" and listen to the flinch. There it is, the phone call where you admit a mistake, the email where you ask for a deadline you can actually meet, the invoice you haven't sent because it makes your work real, the conversation that would repair a hairline fracture in a relationship before it becomes a break. Write it down. Now add the second half. How will I break it into a first, tiny move? This is where courage becomes practical. Open the email draft and write the subject line. Dial and let it ring. Write the first sentence that admits the error without explanation. Schedule the meeting and put 2 bullet goals. The mind doesn't fear the whole, it fears the beginning. Begin, and avoidant tension turns into kinetic energy. You'll feel it, a literal lightness, the relief of gravity leaving your shoulders. Even with avoidance cleared, most days drown in excess. Not because you haven't added enough, but because you haven't removed the right things. The 8th question is a scalpel. What can I subtract to protect what matters? We are taught to layer solutions on problems until the stack collapses. The Stoic approach is subtraction. Remove what weakens and strength emerges. Ask, "What can I subtract?" and look for noise misnamed as necessity. Subtract a meeting that should be an email. Subtract a notification that pretends to be urgent. Subtract a commitment your past self made to impress someone your present self doesn't even respect. Subtract 10% of your to-do list by asking which items, if left undone for a week, would change nothing. Subtract the clutter on your desk that steals decision-making from the work that deserves it. Subtract the extra words in your requests. Say one clear sentence. Subtract the foods that hijack your appetite and the apps that kidnap your attention. Subtraction is not austerity for its own sake. It is reverence. You're building a small monastery around your priorities. Every no becomes a deposit into the account that funds your best yes. And when subtraction reveals the bones of your day, you're ready for the final question, the one that sets the whole morning on fire without melodrama. If today were a gift returned to me, how would I live it? This question isn't morbid, it's medicinal. It dissolves entitlement and sharpens gratitude into action. Imagine that, without warning, your days ended yesterday. And somehow, this single day was handed back to you. Not a lifetime, just this one. What would embarrass you to waste? Whose face would you look at a beat longer? Which words would you speak with more accuracy and less armor? What work would you gladly do simply because you can? Where would you refuse to argue and choose to listen? You don't have to overhaul the schedule, you have to infuse it. Fold this awareness into ordinary tasks like a baker folds air into dough. The drive becomes a privilege, not a penalty. The email becomes a chance to practice clarity. The workout becomes a celebration of joints that move and lungs that fill. The dinner becomes a ritual, not a pit stop. Life doesn't demand that you be dramatic. It asks that you be awake. Now braid these 9 questions together into a morning that doesn't wobble in the wind. You wake and drink water because your body is the workbench. You sit where your phone can't confuse your first thoughts. You ask what is in your control, and you write 3 lines to claim it. You decide who you want to be by nightfall and place an object in front of you to remind you of the quality you elected. You crown one essential and defend it with a block on the calendar. You rehearse what might go wrong and arm yourself with calm procedures. You choose a person to serve and a concrete way to do it. You declare one standard you won't negotiate and prepare to enforce it without applause. You name what you're avoiding and slice it into an immediate start. You subtract one thing that makes you frenetic, and you hold the whole day like something returned to you, because it is. Let's walk through a day where you do this for real, not as a fantasy montage. The alarm meets you, and, because last night you set your sleep as a standard, you don't feel like a crime scene. Water first, you feel the chill wake your mouth. The phone stays in exile. You open your notebook and answer the first question. What's in my control today? You write, my effort on the client presentation, my tone with Sarah, my phone rule, kitchen during deep work, my training, my bedtime. Already your chest feels less crowded. You ask the second question and write, by nightfall, I want to be the person who said the hard sentence kindly and did not flee the deep work. You place a small pen across the notebook like a banner. Third question. One essential. You block 90 minutes at 9 a.m. and write the first ugly bullet points of the presentation, so the hardest part, beginning, is already done. Fourth. What could go wrong and how will I respond? You list. Unexpected meeting. Answer by asking for a 15-minute cap and an agenda. Anxiety spike. Step outside and breathe 6 slow exhales. Phone temptation. It lives in the kitchen. Fifth. Whom will I serve? You choose the new teammate and decide to document the steps you'll take today so they can repeat them. Sixth. What standard will I not negotiate? You write, no gossip even when invited. Seventh. What am I avoiding? You write the name you've been dodging and dial. It rings. You speak the first sentence without adding blame. Your stomach drops, then releases. Eighth. What can I subtract? You cancel a standing meeting that exists only because it always has. Ninth. If this were returned to me. You see your child's face. You choose to leave the office 10 minutes earlier and walk with them the long way home. None of this required a miracle. It required a morning that felt like steering. And of course, not all mornings will glide. Some will grind. You'll oversleep. You'll lose the thread. You'll hear yourself talk like a person you decided to outgrow. Good. Growth has friction. Those are the mornings where questions matter most. Don't wait to feel pure before you ask them. Ask them precisely because you feel compromised. A pilot doesn't ignore the checklist because the weather is messy. They cling to it. You can do the same. Shorten the ritual if you must. Write one line for each question. Shrink the essential to 5 honest minutes. Reduce the service to 1 sincere note. Keep the standard. Make the call. Subtract one thing. Touch the day as a gift, even when it arrives wrapped in rain. Over time, something subtle and undeniable happens. People notice without knowing why. Your presence feels heavier, not with stress, but with substance. Meetings end earlier because your questions arrived earlier. Problems feel smaller because your frame grew. The mirror stops being a courtroom and becomes a checkpoint. Your evenings grow sweeter because your mornings stopped lying. You trust yourself because you heard your voice at dawn and you obeyed it at noon. The Stoics weren't building statues, they were building mornings like this, practices that make philosophy visible to the people who never read a page. Let this be the order you carry into tomorrow. Before the world speaks, ask what is truly yours to steer. Decide who you will be by night and wear one token that reminds you, Protect the one essential as if it were your child. Anticipate chaos and pre-choose calm. Aim at a person, not a platform. Enforce one standard like a guard who doesn't slouch. Turn toward the thing you're avoiding and begin with a single brave move. Remove one weight that keeps your soul from floating to its work, and hold the whole day like something returned, because if you are hearing my voice, it has been. You don't need to do this perfectly. You need to do this repeatedly. Questions are like stones dropped into a river. They change the current even when the surface looks the same. Drop them daily, and the river of your life bends toward the ocean you've been craving. A quiet strength that does not need an audience. A reliable courage that does not need drama. A competence that makes the lives around you lighter. That is how power is activated, not by a shout, but by a morning that refuses to lie to you. So here at the end, give yourself a rehearsal. Close your eyes for 5 breaths. See the notebook, see the pen, see the glass of water sweating on the table. Hear your own voice asking the first question, not like a chant, but like a contract. What is under my control today? Answer with ink. Ask who you will be by nightfall and pick up the emblem that says it out loud without words. Name the one essential and draw a box around it on the page. List the probable storms and the protocols that will meet them. Write the name of the person you'll serve and the method. Circle your one non-negotiable. Underline the avoided task and write the first action. Cross a line through something you're subtracting. And in the margin, like a small prayer, write, returned. When morning comes, you won't need inspiration. You will need a chair, a page, a pen, and a question. Ask it, then another, then another. By the 9th, you'll feel it. The click of a life that is no longer pushed by weather, but steered by will. That is the Stoic promise disguised as a morning ritual. Govern the first minutes, and the hours start volunteering for your purpose. And when night does come, you will meet the person you chose that morning. You will recognize them. You will be them. In the last conversation, we trained your mornings to obey your will. You felt the click of a day that starts by asking the right questions instead of surrendering to noise. Keep that momentum close, because today we turn outward, not to gossip or to feed suspicion, but to sharpen perception. There's a particular kind of fog that creeps into good lives. The confusion you feel when someone around you acts strangely toward your progress. They smile when you succeed, yet their words drain you. They congratulate you with one hand and pull the ladder with the other. You sense something off, but you can't name it, and nameless things rule us. So let's name it with the calm of a Stoic and the precision of a surgeon: jealousy. Not the cartoonish version, loud and obvious, the quiet kind, the kind that lives in compliments with splinters, the kind that, if you let it, will distort your own standards. Not to make you paranoid, paranoia is just cowardice with a plan, but to make you clear, jealousy around you is not your identity, but it is your weather. The wise sailor reads the weather and still sails. First, feel the anchor of our principle. You control your judgments, your choices, your words, and your standards, not their moods, not their histories, not their interpretations of your life. When you learn to read jealousy without internalizing it, you stop trying to convince it, fix it, or perform for it. You let it be a signal, not a sentence. These 15 signs are not for weaponizing, they are for orienting. They tell you where to place your attention, how to guard your energy, and when to step aside. And like all Stoic tools, they are designed to strengthen your character, not your ego. The point isn't to hunt enemies, it's to refuse confusion. Because confusion makes you clumsy, clarity makes you free. The first sign arrives inside praise, with a needle hidden in the cotton. They compliment you, but they crop the frame. Congrats on the promotion. Must be nice to have friends in high places. You look amazing. Probably just good lighting. On the surface, it's applause. Underneath, it's a downgrading of your effort. Jealousy can't celebrate, it must explain. The Stoic response is not to argue or to produce evidence of your work like a defendant. Smile and let the sentence pass unwrestled. If the relationship matters, mirror back calm precision. I worked hard and I'm proud of this. Short, clean. Refuse the hook that drags you into defending your worth. The jealous person isn't asking for data, they're bargaining with their discomfort. Don't buy it. If you keep meeting this pattern, reduce access. Not as revenge, but as resource management. The garden grows better with fewer shadows leaning over it. The second sign is a strange allergy to your good news. Watch the timing. The moment you share a win, they pivot immediately to their own story or to someone else who did it bigger. You say, I finally ran 5 kilometers, and they say, my cousin is training for an ultra marathon. You say, we're engaged, and they say, wait until the problems start. Jealousy hears your joy as a siren. It has to drown it with comparative noise. Your move is ritualized discipline. Receive your own joy fully before you share it widely. Not secrecy, sovereignty. Celebrate with the few who can hold it without making it about themselves. When you do share, and you meet the pivot, don't chase validation. Resist the urge to repeat the story louder. Say less, smile more. Go back to your work. You're not stingy, you're protective. Stoicism teaches that what is precious is easily bruised. Protect your joy like a bruise. It heals best without prodding fingers. The third sign is the subtle sabotage disguised as counsel. I just don't want you to be disappointed. Don't get your hopes up. People like us never get those opportunities. This looks like care. It functions like a ceiling. Jealousy cannot imagine a path for you that it refused to walk, so it labels caution as wisdom. You don't have to argue with someone's limits to exceed them. Thank them for their concern and return to your plan. Good counsel enlarges your capacity and clarifies risk. Jealous counsel blurs your vision and shrinks your reach. The Stoic test is simple. After speaking with them, do you feel stronger, clearer, more capable, or do you feel foggy and small? Choose exposure accordingly. Keep them in the stands, not in the huddle. You are not obligated to audition your hope for those committed to smallness. The fourth sign is the backhanded favor. They offer help that increases your dependence and decreases your credibility. Let me rewrite that for you, then mention later how they saved your project. Use my contacts, then take credit for doors you opened with your work. Jealousy wants proximity to your progress so it can watermark it. The Stoic practice here is clean boundaries with grateful tone. I appreciate the offer. This is important for me to do myself. If you do accept help, define the scope and the credit in advance. Clarity is not rudeness, it is respect for both parties. Notice how jealous people will call your clarity ingratitude. Don't take that bait. A partnership that withers in the presence of boundaries was never a partnership. The fifth sign is the quiet campaign. They don't confront you, they curate others' opinions of you when you're not in the room. You'll feel it in the temperature change when you enter meetings, in the odd pattern of misunderstandings. Jealousy is a poor sprinter, but a relentless jogger. It travels through insinuation. The Stoic answer is reputation through repetition. Keep your word, document your work, communicate in writing where it matters, and let your consistency outpace their rumors. Speak directly when you must. I've heard X, I want to clear it. Here are the facts, here's what I own, here's what I'm changing. Then stop. The jealous mind wants theater. Don't build it a stage. Over time, the audience learns the difference between echo and voice. The sixth sign is performative celebration. They overdo the applause in public, tag you, praise you loudly, insist on a toast, but vanish when you actually need support. Jealousy loves the optics of magnanimity because optics cost nothing and gain social credit. Watch how quickly they switch to indifference when there's no crowd. The Stoic practice is to measure people by quiet reliability, not volume. Who answers the call when there's no camera? Who shows up when the task is boring? Those are your allies. For the rest, accept the performance as weather. It may be sunny. It isn't warmth. Don't punish. Don't expect. Calibrate. The seventh sign is mirroring without mastery. They mimic your phrases, adopt your habits, buy your tools, join your circles. This is not always jealousy. Sometimes it's admiration. The difference is in attitude. Admiration learns and credits. Jealousy copies and competes. It takes the shell without the substance and resents you when the shell doesn't produce your results. Your move? Keep teaching freely to those who are teachable and keep your methods close to your chest with those who aren't. You don't need to hoard, you need to discern. And when someone copies you badly and blames you for their lack of results, let reality teach them. You aren't their scapegoat, you're their mirror. And some people hate mirrors. The eighth sign is chronic minimization. Whatever you do, they locate the least impressive angle and point it out like a tour guide of smallness. Anyone can do that. It's not that competitive. You had it easier because the jealous mind must shrink what threatens its narrative. Don't join its architecture. Refuse the smallness lesson by handing it back the tape measure. It was hard, and I'm proud. Calmly naming your pride is not vanity, it's stewardship. Stewards protect the value of what was costly. If they persist, step out of the classroom. Their curriculum is beneath you. The ninth sign is selective urgency. When you need them, everything takes forever. When they need you, everything is now. Jealousy punishes you with delay and manipulates you with emergency. The Stoic correction is symmetry. Set clear response windows for your time and apply them both directions. I reply to messages by end of day. I can help Wednesday at 4. When they escalate, breathe and repeat your boundary. Don't let other people's poor planning become the bulldozer of your priorities. You don't owe anyone your panic. The 10th sign is competitive grief. You share a struggle and they one-up your pain or redirect attention to theirs, not because they need empathy, but because they cannot bear the spotlight anywhere near you. Jealousy can't even let you suffer without reclaiming center stage. The response is surgical empathy and elegant distance. I hear you. I'm going to focus on what I'm dealing with right now. If that seems cold, it's because you've been trained to think boundary is cruelty. It isn't. It's the only way to keep your energy available for real healing. A Stoic guards attention the way a monk guards silence. The 11th sign is invisible sabotage. The missed message by accident, the important detail edited out, the tiny but consequential errors that, strangely, only derail your work. One instance is life. A pattern is intention disguised as clumsiness. Address it once without accusations. Here's the cost when that detail gets dropped. Here's the process I need from now on. If it repeats, remove dependency. Design your system so one person's quiet war can't sink the ship. Build redundancies, clarify roles, get verification. Stoicism is not naive, it is disciplined realism. The 12th sign is boundary backlash. The jealous thrive in vague space. So when you set a clear limit, no gossip, no last-minute demands, no borrowing without asking, they interpret your standard as an insult. You've changed. Yes, that's the point of growth. Your answer is calm repetition and zero theater. This is the rule. Don't explain your values to someone committed to misunderstanding them. Offer them the new terms once, maybe twice, then relate accordingly. When you stop negotiating your peace, you'll be shocked at how many storms stop visiting. The 13th sign is selective amnesia about your generosity. You helped, but they forget. You covered, but they remember only your absences. Jealousy can't store your kindness. It would contradict the script that you don't deserve what you have. Do not audit your giving to force gratitude. That's a bitter business. Switch strategies. Give with documentation or give what doesn't require return. If help must be remembered, put it in writing up front. I'm happy to do X by Friday if you can do Y by Tuesday. If it's a gift, release it. Gifts with hidden contracts curdle into resentment. The Stoic gives either cleanly or not at all. The 14th sign is hunger for your misstep. Watch the spark in their eyes when you falter. The news travels faster. The interest deepens. Instead of blame, use it as diagnosis. This is not a safe place to bring your drafts, your experiments, your fragile beginnings. Noted. You're not required to feed every mouth at the table of your becoming. Share results with spectators. Share process with builders. And when you do fall, as you will, refuse shame. The best protection from jealous glee is radical accountability. I missed the mark. Here's what I'm changing. Nothing disarms a quiet hater like a person who learns quickly. The 15th sign is the most dangerous because it looks like love. They beg you to stay smaller for harmony. Don't grow too fast. Don't outpace the group. Don't make us feel the gap. Jealousy dresses as community and calls your expansion an insult. Stoicism answers with duty, to your gifts, to your potential, to the people you're meant to serve. Your life is not a comfort project for those committed to stillness. You can love people and leave the orbit that keeps everyone tired. You can offer a hand without lowering your ceiling. Lead by example, kind eyes, firm feet. Now, before you turn these signs into a hunt, pause for the most stoic question of all. Where do these signs live in me? Jealousy is a human impulse, not a villain's hobby. If you feel the sting when others rise, don't moralize it. Transmute it. Convert envy into evidence that you care and into energy for your own path. When their success pinches you, say quietly, "Good for them," and "Good reminder for me." Then do a small action toward your craft. The fastest cure for jealousy is work with focus. If your hands are building, your mouth has less time to criticize. There's another reason to do this inner scan. It keeps you kind. Recognizing jealousy in someone else is not a license for superiority. It's a call to clarity and compassion. clarity for your boundaries, compassion for their burden. Some people learned early that love was scarce and success was a zero-sum game. They're playing an old script. You don't have to join the play. You can exit the scene without slam or sermon. You can also remain, if the relationship matters, and model a different economy, one where someone else's light doesn't steal your sun. So how do you live with this cleanly, without building walls around your heart? Practice 3 quiet disciplines. First, recognition without rehearsal. When you spot a sign, name it once and don't replay it all day. Repetition is a tax on your energy. Pay it once. Second, boundaries without biography. Enforce your standards without diagnosing their childhood. You are their friend or colleague, not their therapist. Third, presence without permission seeking. Keep building openly, kindly, without shrinking to be palatable. Jealousy feeds on apology. Stop apologizing for using your life well. Let's end where we always end, with what you can control today. You can control the clarity of your speech, clean congratulations, clean declines, clean requests. You can control the architecture of your environment. Fewer confessional conversations with those who turn them into ammunition. You can control your inputs. Less gossip, more craft. You can control your celebration. Private first, public last. You can control your standards. No self-diminishment to soothe someone else's insecurity. And you can control your posture. Chin neither raised in contempt nor lowered in fear, but level, like someone who belongs to their duty. Because that's what rankles jealousy most, a person who belongs to their duty. Not to approval, not to theater, not to the small economies of comparison. A person who wakes, asks the right questions, does the essential, serves quietly, and repeats. A person who doesn't need to dim their light to be invited to the party. If you become that person, jealousy will still visit. It just won't get a key to your house. Tomorrow, when you notice the tiny snags, the delayed reply, the crooked compliment, the slow drip of doubt, don't spiral. Smile a private, knowing smile. You've seen this weather before. Adjust your sails. Keep your course. Whom you become is the only answer that matters. And when night comes, may you lie down with the peace of someone who refused to wrestle shadows and chose instead to build something that will outlast them. In the last conversation, we spoke about the subtle storms of jealousy, how to recognize it in others, how to guard your energy, and how to keep walking your path without shrinking. That lesson was about protection, about defending your inner fortress from quiet sabotage. But what good is a fortress if no one can enter? If jealousy teaches us what weakens trust, then today we turn to the other side of the coin. What builds it? Because a life without trust is survival, not living. Trust is the invisible currency of every human exchange. You don't pay with your resume, you pay with your presence. You don't secure loyalty with persuasion, you secure it with consistency. And the paradox is this: while trust takes years to deepen, it can be won in moments if your habits are aligned. People decide whether to open to you or to guard themselves within seconds. They may not articulate why, but their nervous system knows, I can trust this person, or I must be careful. You feel it too. You've met someone and known instantly that you could hand them your keys, and you've met others and known you'd hide your wallet. That instinct is not magic. It's perception. It's the reading of habits. The Stoics understood this long before psychology had terms for it. They lived in a world of markets, forums, armies, and families where trust was the difference between survival and betrayal. Marcus Aurelius wrote not only about how to govern himself, but how to be the kind of man whose word could anchor others in a chaotic empire. Epictetus told his students that philosophy wasn't about sounding wise, but about living so steadily that others could lean on you. Seneca warned that wealth and reputation could win applause, but only character could win confidence. So today, I will hand you 9 habits, not tricks, not performances, but genuine practices that make people trust you instantly. Not because you manipulated them, but because they recognized in you what they crave in themselves: steadiness, clarity, dignity. Each habit is simple enough to begin today, but each requires consistency to become who you are. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll see that these habits don't just make others trust you, they make you trust yourself. The first habit is presence. To be fully with someone when the world is built to scatter you is already a miracle. Think about the last time someone listened to you without rushing, without rehearsing their response, without letting their eyes flicker to a screen. You felt it. It calmed you. It told you, without words, "You matter here." That is presence, and it breeds trust faster than any title. But presence is a discipline. It means you control your impulses. It means you put the phone down, you look into eyes, you let silence breathe. In Stoic terms, it's attention without distraction, and attention is love in action. Train yourself to enter each conversation as if it were the only one today. People may forget your advice, but they will never forget the feeling of being seen. That feeling is the seed of trust. But presence alone is not enough. The second habit is congruence. Your words and your actions speaking the same language. Everyone has met the charming liar, the smooth talker whose promises dissolve as fast as they are spoken. The Stoics despised this type because words without actions are theater, not truth. To be trusted, you must live like an echo. What you say reverberates in what you do. If you say you will call, you call. If you say you will deliver, you deliver. If you cannot, you explain without excuse. Congruence is not perfection, it is alignment. When people see that your speech and your conduct march together, their nervous system relaxes. They don't need to doubt. They don't need to scan for deception. And the relief of not doubting is the birth of trust. From congruence flows the third habit: honesty with kindness. The Stoics taught that truth without virtue is cruelty, and comfort without truth is deception. To be trusted, you must say what is real, but say it with a hand extended, not a fist raised. Honesty that humiliates builds fear, not trust. Honesty that respects builds strength. Imagine telling a colleague, "Your draft was careless." That sentence wounds and closes. Now imagine, your draft had strong points, but these errors are hiding your talent. Let's fix them. That sentence tells the truth and protects dignity. When people know you will speak truth, but never with poison, they stop hiding from you. And when they stop hiding, trust blooms. The fourth habit is reliability in the small things. Many chase big gestures to prove themselves, heroic favors, dramatic rescues, loud declarations of loyalty. But people don't measure you by the epic, they measure you by the daily. Do you show up on time? Do you remember what was said? Do you reply when you said you would? Trust is accumulated interest from thousands of small deposits. Miss them, and your grand speeches will ring hollow. Keep them, and even your silence carries weight. The Stoics insisted that greatness was trained in the trivial. Keep your trivial promises, and others will hand you larger ones without hesitation. The fifth habit is emotional steadiness. Picture two captains. One panics when the waves rise, the other steadies the crew with calm orders. Which one would you trust with your life? People are always reading your emotional weather. If you erupt at small inconveniences, if your tone fluctuates with every gust, they will tiptoe around you, not trust you. But if you breathe, if you stay measured, if you speak slowly when anger tempts you to speed, you become a harbor. The Stoic sage wasn't unfeeling, he was unshaken. To cultivate steadiness, practice pausing before responding, lowering your voice when others raise theirs, naming your feelings instead of leaking them. Emotional control isn't suppression, it's mastery, and mastery makes others relax because your storms don't spill onto them. The sixth habit is discretion. Trust leaks when your mouth leaks. If someone confides in you and the story finds its way to others, your reputation is bankrupt. The Stoics valued silence as much as speech. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, that we may listen twice as much as we speak." Be the person who can hold what is given without scattering it. When people test you with a small secret and discover it never left your lips, they entrust you with larger parts of their soul. Gossip may win laughs, but it loses confidence. Silence wins trust without words. The seventh habit is fairness. Not favoritism, not manipulation, not bending rules for advantage. Fairness means you judge by merit, not by mood. You credit others openly. You take responsibility when things fail. You refuse to steal credit for what is not yours. In a world where envy and politics are the norm, fairness is rare and therefore magnetic. People lean toward those who treat all with dignity, even when no one is watching. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it." Fairness is trust enacted in decisions. Be fair, and even those who disagree with you will respect you. The eighth habit is humility. Not self-belittling, not false modesty, but the calm acknowledgement that you are human, capable of error, willing to learn. Arrogance repels trust because it signals fragility. The arrogant cannot admit weakness, so others know they will lie when cracks appear. Humility attracts trust because it signals strength. The humble can confess mistakes, so others know they will tell the truth. Show that you can say, "I was wrong." Show that you can listen without needing to dominate. Show that you can learn from anyone, not just those above you. Humility makes you accessible, and accessibility breeds trust. And finally, the ninth habit, consistency over time. Trust is not won in a single day, it is confirmed every day after. Consistency means you don't reinvent yourself to please each audience. It means your principles don't wobble under pressure. It means that whether you are with friends, strangers, or alone, the same standards govern you. Consistency is integrity stretched across time. When others know that the version of you they meet today is the same one they'll meet tomorrow, they relax. They lean on you. They trust. Now notice how these 9 habits interlock. Presence makes people feel seen. Congruence assures them you are real. Honesty with kindness keeps them safe. Reliability gives them confidence. Emotional steadiness makes you their anchor. Discretion protects their dignity. Fairness shows them respect. Humility makes you human. And consistency weaves it all into a pattern strong enough to hold relationships, families, teams, even nations. The Stoics never taught trust as a tactic. They taught it as a byproduct of virtue. Live with virtue and trust will follow. Chase trust without virtue and you will fall into performance. So don't aim to be trusted as a mask. Aim to be trustworthy as a man or woman of principle. Tomorrow, when you wake and face the mirror, remember this. Trust begins with the way you trust yourself. If you keep your own promises, if you master your impulses, if you show up in your own life with dignity, the world will notice. Trust is not demanded, it is recognized. And the most stoic truth of all, the moment you no longer crave to be trusted, but simply to be honest and consistent, is the moment people will trust you instantly. So go back into your day with these 9 habits, not as tricks but as standards. Let your presence calm, your actions align, your words build, your demeanor steady, your silence protect, your fairness guide, your humility soften, your consistency harden. Do this, and you won't need to convince anyone to trust you. They will feel it the moment they meet you, because trust, like virtue, doesn't need to shout. It simply stands. In the last conversation, we learned that trust is the invisible currency that makes relationships possible. That lesson was outward, how others see you, how your consistency and steadiness can win confidence. But today we turn inward, because all the trust in the world is wasted if you cannot hold your own attention steady. What good is a reputation for reliability if your thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind? What good is loyalty if you cannot stay with one task long enough to build something worthy of it? Focus is the lever that multiplies every effort you make. Without focus, 10 hours produce nothing but exhaustion. With focus, 1 hour can change the course of your life. And here's the Stoic truth. Focus is not a gift you are born with. It is a discipline. It is trained like strength, sharpened like a blade, guarded like treasure. Marcus Aurelius warned himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. If strength is power, then focus is the grip that holds it. Most people think they need more time, more tools, more hacks, but they don't lack time. They lack attention. They spend hours in front of screens, but only fragments of those hours on what matters. They confuse motion for progress, distraction for rest, noise for life. And slowly they train their minds not to hold, but to scatter. But imagine this. You wake tomorrow, and for the first 2 hours, your mind does not drift. It doesn't flicker to your phone, doesn't wander to yesterday's insult, doesn't scroll the endless catalogue of what-ifs. Instead, it locks, calmly, fully, onto one thing. How much would your life change if you could build that capacity, not once, but daily? That's what we are about to practice. There are 9 arenas where focus is trained: your environment, your devotion to one task, your management of thoughts, your body, your impulses, your clarity of purpose, your rhythm, your presence in daily life, and your reflection at day's end. Each arena is a battlefield, but also a classroom. Win here, and you win not just more success, but more life. Environment, the stage of focus. No actor can perform on a stage littered with distractions, and no mind can focus in a room designed to scatter it. Your environment is the silent accomplice to your habits. Walk into a cluttered desk and notice what happens. Your eyes ping from paper to paper, from object to object, and before you even sit down, you feel a pull in 10 directions. Place your phone within reach, buzzing like a restless child, and watch how many times you touch it without thinking. The Stoics did not worship minimalism, but they understood discipline of space. Epictetus told his students to examine what they allowed into their lives as carefully as what they allowed into their minds. Every object is a tug on your attention, so design your space like a monastery for clarity. This doesn't mean you need a perfect office or a designer desk. It means you strip away the unnecessary. Keep only the tools for the task at hand. If you are writing, one document open, not 6. If you are reading, one book on the table, not a pile. Store the phone outside the room. Make your environment a signal to your brain. Here, we do one thing. Think of the way a craftsman arranges his bench. Tools are not scattered, they are placed. Not for beauty, but for clarity. The Stoic life is craftsmanship applied to the soul. When your stage is cleared, your attention no longer has to fight battles before the real work begins. Focus feels less like force and more like flow. But even with a clear stage, focus falters if the actor cannot perform. Which brings us to the next arena, single task devotion. Single task devotion. One act, full weight. Modern culture glorifies multitasking. People boast of answering emails while on calls, of watching lectures while scrolling feeds, of eating meals while working spreadsheets. But what they call efficiency, the Stoics would call fragmentation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what is in front of you with exact justice, lovingly, voluntarily, with a whole heart." Whole heart, that is single task devotion. To be present to one act fully, without dilution. Try it, and you'll see how rare it is. Sit to write for 10 minutes. Within 3, you feel the itch. Check the phone, stretch, wander. The task becomes uncomfortable, not because it's impossible, but because your mind has been trained to scatter. This discomfort is not failure, it is the gym. Every time you pull your attention back, you are performing a repetition. Just as muscles grow by resisting weight, focus grows by resisting drift. Start small. 10 minutes of pure reading, 15 minutes of writing. Increase slowly, like adding weight to the bar. With time, your capacity stretches. What once felt unbearable becomes flow. Hours can pass in deep work when your mind is trained to stay. Why does this matter? Because success is not 1,000 half-finished tasks. Success is a handful of finished ones that were given full attention. Single-task devotion turns quantity into quality, busyness into achievement. And when you learn to hold one thing, you also learn to let go of all others, which leads us to the hardest arena, your thoughts. Mastering inner chatter, silence without suppression. Even in a silent room, distraction screams inside the mind. Yesterday's insult, tomorrow's worry, the loop of what if and if only. You silence your phone, but the noise inside keeps talking. The Stoics faced this too. Seneca wrote of people who were everywhere except with themselves, their minds scattered across time. The Stoic tool was journaling and premeditation. Before work, they would write their fears, their hopes, their worries. They would rehearse what could go wrong, then set it aside. The page became a container so the mind could be clear. Try this. Before you begin a task, write down the thoughts pulling at you. If this project fails, I'll lose respect. I need to pay that bill. What if they don't like my idea? Then divide them into 2 lists. Within my control, outside my control. Everything outside, release it. Everything within, assign it a time. Now, return to the task. If stray thoughts intrude, jot them on a sheet to address later, then return. This is not suppression. It is governance. The Stoics did not deny thoughts. They managed them. And when you learn to manage your inner chatter, you discover that focus is not the absence of thought, but the alignment of thought. A clear mind is not empty, it is aimed. But no mind, however clear, can focus in a broken body. Which brings us to the fourth arena, the physical foundation. The body, the vessel of focus. Try concentrating after 3 hours of sleep. Try focusing after a meal of sugar and grease. Try sharp thinking after days of no movement. You cannot. Focus is not just mental, it is physiological. The Stoics understood this. They practiced moderation in food, rest, and exercise, not for vanity, but for clarity. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. If you would be focused, then eat, sleep, and move like someone who needs clarity. Sleep consistently. The mind cannot hold attention if it is starved of rest. Eat not for indulgence, but for fuel. Move daily, not to build appearance, but to regulate chemistry. Walk, lift, stretch. Each is a vote for clarity." When your body is stable, your mind has a platform. When your body is neglected, your mind collapses. Focus, then, begins not at the desk, but at the bed, the table, the gym. Treat your body as the vessel of your attention. Strong vessel, steady focus. Yet even with body aligned, impulses remain. That itch to switch, to scroll, to escape the discomfort of deep work. This is the fifth arena. Impulse control. Impulse control, the gap of freedom. Distraction doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside. A sudden urge, check the phone, open the tab, wander away. These urges feel irresistible, but they are not. They are waves, and waves can be ridden. The Stoics trained this through pause. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt. We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The same is true of urges. They feel bigger than they are. Practice waiting 60 seconds before acting. The urge to scroll, the urge to leave. Pause. Breathe. Often the wave passes. If it doesn't, interrogate it. Does this serve the task I chose? If not, let it dissolve. Every pause builds muscle. Every time you resist the reflex, you lengthen the gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap lies freedom. The more often you train it, the more your focus becomes your own, not a slave to impulses. But impulse control needs direction. If you say no to everything, what do you say yes to? Which leads to the sixth arena, clarity of purpose. Clarity of purpose, the compass of attention. Focus without direction is intensity wasted. Like a candle burning in all directions, it illuminates nothing. The Stoics lived with brevity in mind. Life is short, so attention must be aimed. Each morning, ask, what one task, if completed, would move me forward? Not 10, not vague hopes. 1. Write it, circle it, protect it. This becomes the anchor of your day. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Concentrate every minute on the work at hand as if it were the last." Clarity turns focus into flow. Without it, you will always be busy, never effective. With it, even 1 hour becomes priceless. But clarity must be sustained, and no human can sustain indefinitely, which brings us to the seventh arena, rhythm. Rhythm, cycles of focus and rest. Focus is not infinite. It pulses. The Stoics practiced attention in intervals, letters, meditations, reflections, not endless marathons. Even Marcus, ruling an empire, wrote in fragments. Train your day as cycles. Work, then recovery. 25 minutes and 5, 50 and 10. The numbers matter less than the rhythm. Without rest, focus decays into exhaustion. With rhythm, focus sharpens like a blade, honed, sheathed, honed again. Guard your rest as fiercely as your work. Rest is not laziness, it is preparation. Rhythm makes focus sustainable, not heroic. But focus is not only for work, it is for life itself. This is the 8th arena, presence. Presence, focus as life itself. What use is the ability to concentrate on tasks if you cannot concentrate on living? To eat without distraction, to walk without headphones, to listen without rehearsing your reply. This is Stoic focus in daily life. Practice being wholly where you are. At meals, taste each bite. On walks, look at the horizon. With friends, let silence be part of the conversation. Presence trains the same muscle as deep work, but in the theater of life. And it multiplies not just success, but joy. Because here is the truth. Most people do not live their lives. They skim them. They eat while scrolling, talk while typing, walk while thinking of somewhere else. And then they wonder why their days feel thin. Presence is the antidote. Presence thickens time. Presence is life lived twice, once in action, once in awareness. But presence requires review, or it decays. Which brings us to the 9th and final arena, reflection. Reflection, sharpening tomorrow with today. Focus is a muscle. Muscles grow not only by exertion, but by feedback. Without reflection, you repeat mistakes. With reflection, you refine. Each night, ask, where did my focus go today? Was it chosen or stolen? Did I guard it or give it away? Marcus Aurelius ended his days with notes to himself, not to flatter, but to recalibrate. Reflection closes the loop. It exposes leaks, celebrates wins, and sharpens tomorrow. It turns focus from accident into training. Without it, distraction creeps back. With it, each day becomes stronger than the last. Now, see how these 9 arenas interlock. Environment clears the stage. Single-task devotion steadies the actor. Thought mastery silences noise. The body fuels the performance. Impulse control directs the scene. Clarity writes the script. Rhythm sustains the act. Presence deepens it. And reflection refines it. Together, they form a Stoic curriculum for focus. And here is the paradox. When you sharpen focus, you don't just get more done, you become more alive. Life is not measured by hours survived, but by moments truly lived. Most drift half absent. The focused man lives twice, once in work, once in presence. Success multiplies because energy is undiluted. Joy multiplies because awareness is undivided. So, tomorrow, when you sit at your desk, when you face the page, when you meet the eyes of someone you love, remember this: the rarest gift you can give the world is undivided attention. Train it like a soldier. Guard it like treasure. Wield it like a blade. And watch as your focus multiplies not only your success, but the dignity of your days. In the last conversation, we trained your attention like a blade. You felt the difference between a scattered mind and a governed one, between hours that dissolve into noise and minutes that cut through stone. Keep that sensation close. We're going to need it. Because focus is the instrument, but character is the hand that holds it. What good is a sharpened blade in an unsteady grip? What good is power without principles to guide it? Today we move from the energy inside you to the posture you carry in the world, the quiet signals that say, without announcement or performance, this person is strong. Not gym strong, not internet strong. Strong in the way of mountains, silent, patient, immovable when it matters, merciful when it doesn't. The world loves spectacle. It confuses volume with value. But the Stoics measured people by a different scale. Subtle behaviors, repeated in unremarkable rooms, reveal an interior architecture that can sustain victory, endure loss, and remain decent throughout. That's the strength we're building. Stay with me. If you let these enter your bones, the people around you will feel the difference before you ever explain it. There is a first measure that separates the sturdy from the loud, and it only appears when pressure arrives. You remain calm under provocation. Anyone can look composed when life is gentle. A silk shirt looks good on a mannequin. Strength shows up when something pokes the soft parts of your ego, an insult in front of others, a deliberate misunderstanding, a driver whose anger seems to beg for yours. The fragile pretend calm until the moment they are pricked. Then they erupt because their peace was a costume, not a decision. A Stoic expects the shock. Marcus wrote to himself at dawn, "Today you will meet the busybody, the ungrateful, the arrogant." He wasn't forecasting misery, he was rehearsing sovereignty. If you know storms are part of the sea, you reinforce your hull before you sail. In practice, this looks unimpressive, which is why it is so powerful. You breathe before words leave your mouth. You let silence absorb heat. You answer briefly and on target. You remember that a stranger's chaos is not your cue. The other person's volume doesn't become your volume. You are not performing saintliness. You are refusing to outsource your nervous system. Do this once, and people are puzzled. Do it consistently, and you become a place of refuge. Colleagues bring you problems because your weather doesn't change with theirs. Friends trust you with truth because you don't spill when tipped. Calm under provocation is not submission, it is sovereignty. It communicates, without a sermon, that your emotions are your responsibility. And when you carry that responsibility in public, you teach others how to carry theirs. Calm in the storm must be matched by restraint in the sunshine. Watch what happens to most people when they finally win. Their relief becomes noise. Their victory requires a parade. They narrate their ascent as if the universe were the audience they were promised as a child. That loudness is not celebration, it's insecurity. It reveals that the win is a costume they need you to admire to believe. True strength treats triumph like a tool, useful, sharp, dangerous if waved around. You savor the result without making it anyone else's humiliation. You thank the conditions that helped you arrive. A teacher's nudge, a team's patience, a partner's endurance. You let the result speak for itself and go back to the work that made it possible. This is not false modesty, it's stewardship. By refusing to gloat, you protect the win from rot. Restraint in victory keeps your hands on the wheel. It keeps you from promising more than reality can deliver. It keeps your crew loyal because they know you will never spend their effort as a prop in your theater. And it keeps you sane when fortune tilts the table, as it always does. The laurel on your head is lighter when you remember it's woven from things you never fully controlled. Quiet celebration is not a dampening of joy. It's a declaration that your joy doesn't depend on being seen. Strength also reveals itself in the way you take up space when you're not speaking. Fragile egos interrupt. They rush to fill air with proof that they exist because silence makes them nervous. Strong people listen more than they talk, and they don't pretend listening is passive. It's active restraint. It's wrestling with your urge to correct, to advise, to announce your brilliance, and choosing instead to notice what is actually in front of you. Epictetus told his students to practice being difficult to offend and easy to inform. You lean forward, your eyes stay. Your phone is face down in another room. You ask for clarification rather than ammunition. What did you mean when you said? You mirror back the essence. I'm hearing you care about X and you're afraid Y will happen. Do I have that right? This does not mean you agree. It means you honor reality before you arrange it. People will call this kindness. It's also discipline. Listening that registers another person's fear without catching it, their anger without inhaling it, their hope without exploiting it. This is strength as service. You become the kind of person others reveal themselves to, not because you took power, but because you didn't try to. And in that revealing lies your influence. The truth you hear gives you levers no performance could ever reach. When you do speak, strength is precision, not volume. We live in a landscape where exaggeration is the currency of attention. Always, never, everyone, no one. This kind of speech feels powerful because it creates the illusion of certainty. But real power is in the exact, the concrete, the sentence that can live outside of you without collapsing. A strong person edits their own drama. There were 3 errors in the report, instead of "this report is a disaster." I'm not able to take this on by Friday, instead of "I'm drowning." Precision keeps conversations out of the swamp of feelings that cannot be argued because they are not claims, they are weather. It protects dignity because it critiques behavior and process, not identity. It limits escalation because it gives the other person a small, solid thing to hold rather than a vague accusation to fight. And it disciplines you. If you must be precise to be persuasive, you gather facts before you argue. You slow down before you speak. You become a steward of your words rather than a fireworks vendor. The Stoics were suspicious of rhetoric that did not submit to reality. They trained speech that could survive contact with facts. You can feel this in a room. The person who speaks sparingly, specifically, and without poison is the person even their critics trust. You may not like what they say, but you lean in when they raise their voice, not because they're loud, but because they've earned the right to be heard. Another place strength hides is in the way you carry pain. There is a fashionable weakness that parades its wounds as identity, a performance of suffering that asks the room to rearrange itself. The Stoic refuses both extremes, pretending pain doesn't exist and worshipping it as a god. Enduring hardship without complaint does not mean denial. It means you refuse to make your injury the center of the story. You don't ask life to pause while you heal. You learn to move with the limp. There is a particular dignity when you show up, still tender, still human, and do your work anyway. You take the meeting after bad news and say less, not more. You cry in private with a friend you trust, and then return without needing the world to console you. Why is this strength? Because it relocates control. You cannot choose what breaks. You can choose whether the break decides your posture. Bear your burden without theatrics, and you become someone others can lean on in their own storms. You also teach your nervous system that pain does not get to drive. Over time, this kind of endurance generates a trust in yourself that nothing else can give. Even when it hurts, I keep my standards. That sentence, earned, is a kind of armor no audience can provide. Strength without kindness is just hardness, and hardness is brittle. So, a subtler sign is compassion without naivety. Weak compassion has no boundaries. It confuses sacrifice with love, burnout with loyalty. Strong compassion is warm and structured. It sees the human in front of you, and it sees the pattern in their behavior. You don't excuse cruelty with biography, you respond to reality. You forgive, but you don't forget your standards. You help, but not in ways that train others to violate your limits. The Stoics were not cold, they were careful. They believed the most loving thing you can do for a person is to relate to the part of them capable of virtue. That means telling the truth gently, refusing to participate in their self-harm, and walking away when your presence enables injury, yours or theirs. Compassion rooted in strength doesn't need credit. It is not a public performance. It is a quiet habit of giving where help is help, and withholding where help is harm. People feel safe around such compassion because they know it isn't manipulation, it is mercy under law. Another quiet behavior that announces inner strength is patience in delay. Weakness is addicted to immediacy. It cannot bear the dull ache of waiting, so it trades the future for relief. The strong are willing to feel the ache. They can be with an unclosed loop without rushing to close it badly. They make a plan and let the plan mature. They do not confuse slowness with failure. Marcus was an emperor. His days were emergencies. Even he wrote about the rhythm of nature, about fruit ripening in season, about the damage done by tugging at things that must grow. Practically, patience looks like this. You submit the proposal and resist the urge to send 3 follow-ups that bleed neediness. You invest in a skill for months before you ask it to pay you back. You hold your tongue in a tense conversation until your words can build instead of win. Patience is not passivity, it's pacing. It is an allegiance to the long result over the quick rush. When people feel your patience, they trust your timelines. They trust your no because they know your yes isn't impulsive. And they follow you because you are headed somewhere worth reaching, not just somewhere close. Consistency in standards when no one is watching is another subtle bell that rings strength into a room. Reputation is built in public. Character is built in privacy. Do you keep the same rules when your name isn't on the work? Do you close out your day with the little cleanup no one will see? Do you show the same courtesy to the server and the CEO? The weak treat standards like costumes. They put them on for the stage. The strong treat standards like skin. They live inside them. This shows up in the smallest rituals. You arrive when you said you would to meetings that won't advance your status. You don't lie even when the lie would be beautiful and free. You honor small sums of money because they are not yours. Nothing dramatic happens in these moments until it does. A life becomes trustworthy, one unobserved choice at a time. And when a big decision arrives, you do not need to ask who you are. The 1,000 quiet repetitions have already told you. The courage to own mistakes quickly is another refined strength. The fragile soul protects its image like a glass figurine. It cannot afford a crack, so it hides. The strong soul knows perfection is the enemy of progress. It admits error with clean sentences. I was wrong. I missed that. Here's what I will do to make it right. No biography, no symphony of excuses. Owning mistakes does 2 things at once. It halts the spread of harm and it increases your authority. People may not love that you erred, but they will respect the speed and clarity with which you repaired. In teams, this habit creates a culture where problems show up early, when they are small. because no one is punished for being human. In relationships, it detoxifies conflict because blame doesn't need to be litigated for days, and inside yourself, it keeps shame from metastasizing. You aren't a failure. You failed. There is a difference. The difference is a doorway. Step through it, and you get to try again. Gratitude in scarcity might be the rarest behavior of all. It is easy to list gifts when your table is full. It is difficult, therefore powerful, to count what remains when much has been taken. Gratitude here is not a mood. It is a discipline of attention. You refuse to let what is missing blind you to what is present. You refuse to let the story of lack colonize your mind. The Stoics practiced negative visualization. They imagined the loss of what they loved, not to make themselves sad, but to sharpen their appreciation while it still lived. When you can say, in a lean season, there is still bread, there is still a friend, there is still breath, you are not being naive, you are cultivating resilience. Scarcity breeds bitterness in those who worship control. Gratitude dissolves that bitterness. It returns you to agency. From gratitude grows generosity, even when you have little. And generosity is compounding strength. When you give without abundance, you prove to yourself you are bigger than your fear of not having enough. A further sign that strength lives in you is the refusal to gossip. Weakness bonds over the blood of absent people. It forges alliances by slicing someone who isn't there to defend their name. Strength closes the circle. You change the subject. You defend context. You say, let's talk to them. This is not sanctimony, it's hygiene. Gossip is cheap currency that buys you entrance into small rooms. Refusing it costs you those rooms and buys you access to larger ones. Over time, people learn that their reputation is safe in your mouth. They bring you higher trust, and with it, greater responsibility. In a world that weaponizes words, choosing not to harm is an act of quiet courage. It's a vote for the kind of world you want to live in, cast with your own tongue. Finally, the subtlest behavior that reveals true inner strength is the willingness to be principled when it's costly. It is easy to be ethical when ethics are fashionable. It's something else to keep standards when they shrink your options, slow your ascent, or end your membership in certain rooms. The Stoics didn't chase martyrdom, but they also didn't sell their souls on a discount. They remembered that dying a little inside to gain a little outside was a loss disguised as progress. Principle is the spine of a life. Without it, you are flexible to the point of collapse. With it, you stand, even when standing is lonely. This might look like walking away from a profitable but dishonest deal. It might look like telling the truth when silence would protect you. It might look like leaving an environment that requires you to be someone you don't respect. None of these come with applause. They come with the quiet, private knowledge that you still belong to yourself. And when you belong to yourself, you are never truly homeless, even if certain doors close. Other doors open, the kind with heavier hinges and fewer crowds. Notice what ties all of these together. Not one requires you to be loud. Not one depends on a platform. Every single one can be practiced in a room where no one knows your name. That's why they reveal strength. They do not need an audience to exist. Calm under provocation, restraint in victory, listening that doesn't look for your turn, speech that is precise, not punitive, endurance without theatrics, compassion with fences, patience in delay, consistency when unseen, quick ownership of error, gratitude in scarcity, principle over convenience. Practice any one of them, and your life begins to steady. Practice them together, and people will feel your presence as a kind of gravity. They will breathe easier around you. They will lower their shoulders without knowing why. They will ask your opinion not because you are loud, but because you are reliable. And you will carry yourself with a dignity that does not demand, does not bargain, does not beg. It simply is. So how do you begin, not as an idea, but as a behavior? Start with the next irritation that comes for you, because it will. Let it arrive. Feel your chest rise. Decide that you will be the one person in the room whose weather doesn't flip. Later today, when something small goes right, celebrate in a way that requires no witnesses. Tonight, in a conversation, let someone finish their thought without planning yours. When you speak, make one sentence cleaner than you normally would. When you feel an ache, carry it without inviting an audience. Offer one act of kindness that does not burn you. Push one gratification into the future and sit with the itch. Keep one promise that no one will ever check. If you fail, and you will, admit it with speed and repair with action. Write down 3 things that remain, even if a lot was taken. And if a choice arrives that tempts you to shrink your standards to fit a room, choose the room that fits your standards instead. Then sleep like someone who belongs to themselves. This is not a week-long challenge. It's a way of inhabiting a life. You will not earn a medal for it. You may lose a few cheap trophies. You will gain something rarer than recognition, self-respect that doesn't need to be recharged by praise, a presence that quiets rooms, a reputation built from the inside out. That's the Stoic promise. Not that you will be unmoved by the world, but that you will be ungoverned by it. Strong, not because you say so, but because your smallest actions keep saying it for you. Tomorrow when you wake, treat your first words like the opening move of a day you intend to carry well. Stand in front of the mirror you've learned to respect and ask the simplest, hardest question. What behavior will reveal my strength today? Choose it before the world chooses for you. And when the day tests you, as it loves to do, smile a private smile. You were expecting the test. You trained for it. This is not the moment that breaks you. This is the moment that shows you. In the last conversation, we carved strength into your everyday gestures. We didn't shout. We adjusted posture. We didn't demand respect. We behaved in ways that made respect unavoidable. The quiet gravity you felt, the calm under provocation, the restraint in victory, the precision of speech, that was not a mood. It was a standard. And standards are only as strong as the rules that protect them when the day turns noisy and the mind gets hungry. Today we lay those rules on the table. Not the flashy commandments of motivational posters, but the hidden rules, small, uncompromising laws that sit under great lives like bedrock. If you take them seriously, you'll feel it almost immediately. Less friction, more momentum, less noise, more results. This won't be a sermon. This will be a contract you sign with your future, line by line, in the privacy of your own attention. The first rule is deceptively simple. Govern your inputs, or your inputs will govern you. The day does not begin when the sun rises. It begins the moment you let something enter your head. Most people wake up and swallow a buffet of other people's urgency. Headlines built to spike your cortisol, feeds engineered to hijack your attention, opinions outsourced from strangers you'll never meet. Then they wonder why their mind feels like a crowded hallway and their willpower expires by noon. A Stoic starts with a fast, not of food, but of noise. The morning belongs to the mind that will carry the weight of your decisions. It deserves clean fuel. Choose your inputs like you'd choose water in a desert. One page of something that strengthens your spine, not 100 posts that dissolve it. One question you ask yourself, not 50 you allow the internet to ask you. Decide which voices get keycard access and which must wait at the door. Filter by truth, by usefulness, by dignity. This isn't snobbery, it's stewardship. A single toxic input at dawn can frame a whole day in scarcity and threat. A single noble input can frame it in agency and possibility. If you only change this one thing, guarding the gate of your senses, you'll feel your life shift under your feet. Your thoughts stop tripping over each other. Your priorities stop negotiating with strangers. Your attention, which is the currency of your life, begins accruing interest in the accounts that matter. From inputs, the second rule follows with beautiful brutality. Begin every day with one unambiguous essential and protect it like a lion. Busyness is the camouflage of the unfocused. People spend 10 hours tasting tasks and call it work. They end exhausted and strangely unchanged. Elevation requires weight, and weight requires focus. Identify the move that, if done today, tilts the whole board. The hard conversation that clarifies a relationship, the draft that turns a project from idea to object, the training that keeps your body able to carry your purpose. Crown it before breakfast. Put it in a calendar block that makes it real. Then treat that block as if a respected elder asked you to show up. No apologies to yourself, no casual rescheduling because a lesser urgency waved its arms. The Stoics were ruthless with the finite. Concentrate every minute, Marcus wrote, on the work at hand. Notice he did not say every hour. Minutes, guarded, become a fortress. You will be tempted to reward yourself with easy tasks first. Do not. Eat the food, not the garnish. One essential finished gives you the kind of quiet pride that changes how you answer your name for the rest of the day. 10 half starts only teach your nervous system to distrust you. The third rule is the spine of trust. Make promises small and sacred, then keep them with frightening reliability. Grand vows are cheap dopamine, soaring and evaporating like fireworks. Small promises kept are stone. Tell yourself you will read 3 pages, then read 3. Tell a colleague you will send the note by 4, then deliver at 3:50. Tell your partner you will be fully present at dinner, then put the phone in another room and be fully present. This is not about being a martyr to commitment. It is about teaching your brain that your word is a lever. Most of your self-doubt is evidence, not emotion. Evidence that your past self habitually said later and then betrayed you. Rewrite the file. Shrink the promise until it is embarrassing to miss, then guard it like a deposit. You will feel a strange electricity the first week you keep a handful of tiny promises in a row. The world won't clap, your nervous system will. Confidence is not a speech you give yourself, it is the residue of congruence. What you said you'd do and what you did lining up so tightly that your mind relaxes. Keep enough small promises and big ones stop scaring you. You no longer manage yourself with motivation, you manage yourself with evidence. The fourth rule turns reactivity into command. Install a pause between stimulus and response, and let the pause be law. A text arrives with a tone that scratches your pride. A driver barks a word meant to recruit your rage. An email laces a compliment with a subtle cut. The animal in you lunges, the trained human waits. Count 5 slow exhales. Label the emotion to pull it from the driver's seat. There is anger, there is fear, there is shame. Ask one question. What response would my future self thank me for? Then answer with that. The pause is not passivity, it is power under control. The Stoics rehearsed insults in the morning not to live in dread, but to blunt surprise. If you expect the spark, you prepare the extinguisher. Install rituals for the pause. Hands unclench, jaw softens, shoulders drop, voice lowers. These are not affectations, they are circuits. Your body teaches your mind you are not in danger, so your mind stops inventing wars. Over time, people will learn something about you that they cannot fully explain. You are calm without being cold. You don't take bait. You do not give the same energy that is thrown at you. That habit alone will elevate your relationships, your leadership, and your sleep. The fifth rule is subtraction as strategy. Remove the non-essential with decisive kindness, and everything valuable rises. Most lives are not underpowered, they are overcluttered. We keep commitments that made sense to an older version of us because we fear appearing fickle. We say yes to projects that do not move the mission because we do not want to disappoint. We hold on to objects that drain energy because we confuse memory with meaning. The Stoic path is via negativa, progress by removal. Write a list titled, "What I Will Stop." Stop the meeting that recurs out of habit and produces nothing measurable. Stop the notification that grabs your attention hourly and never gives anything back. Stop the small talk with the person who only feels alive while critiquing those who are actually alive. Every subtraction is an act of honesty. My time is finite. My energy is sacred. My attention is the soil of every result in my life. When you cut one vine, you're accused of being sharp. Cut 5 and people call you clear. Subtraction is not austerity, it is reverence. And the beauty is immediate. The moment you remove noise, value becomes visible. The right work begins to feel heavier in your hands, heavier and more satisfying, because you can finally carry it with both arms. The sixth rule sharpens communication into leadership. Speak like a craftsman, not a performer. True, necessary, and as few words as possible. Most sentences chase approval or try to dominate. They sprawl, they dramatize, they wound. Stoic speech is the opposite. It names reality without poison. It critiques behaviors and processes, not souls. It includes numbers when they matter and silence when they matter more. We missed the deadline by 3 days. Here is why. Here is the fix. Here is the safeguard. When you interrupted me twice, I felt dismissed. Next time, I'll finish my point. Then I'll make space for yours. This is not corporate jargon. It is clean architecture. Clear speech de-escalates because it removes ambiguity. Clear speech earns trust because it contains no trapdoors. Clear speech also protects you. When you promise narrowly. When you decline kindly and precisely. When you ask for exactly what you need. Watch what happens to your life when your words are instruments and not entertainment. Fewer misalignments, shorter meetings, faster repairs, and a reputation for sanity that travels faster than you do. The seventh rule converts a common poison into fuel. When envy appears, translate it into a curriculum and enroll yourself immediately. Envy is a compass pointing at a capacity you have not yet cultivated. Most people anesthetize it by mocking the person who triggered it or numbing themselves with distractions. A Stoic listens to the sting like a teacher. If their speaking presence wakes your frustration, book a room and practice speaking for 10 minutes daily. If their business acuity irritates, set aside an hour a week to study the basics you've been pretending to understand. If their fitness feels like an indictment, start with 5 honest minutes of movement. Not an aspirational plan, a proof. Then send a note that says, "I admire this specific thing you do. If you were me, what would you do for the next 30 days to build it?" Envy evaporates in the heat of action. It cannot live in a body that is training. It cannot survive gratitude for a roadmap. Every time you turn envy into apprenticeship, you are celebrating the fact that excellence exists in front of you, and you are not condemned to watch it from the bleachers. The 8th rule for elevation is voluntary discomfort as a ritual, not a stunt. Comfort is a sweet nap that becomes a coma. The Stoics rehearsed poverty, walked without cloaks in cold weather, ate simple meals, not to suffer, but to break the illusion that they needed conditions to be brave. Choose your frictions wisely and keep them small enough to repeat. A 2-minute cold rinse to remind your body you give the orders. A weekly walk the long way to build patience. A day each week with no sugar or no spending to loosen the grip of impulses. A monthly challenge where you ship something imperfect on purpose to inoculate yourself against perfectionism. Voluntary discomfort upgrades your nervous system. It teaches you that the feeling called "I can't" is often just "I'm not used to this yet." It also restores proportion. The deep work session feels easier after you've chosen a smaller pain. The conversation you've been avoiding feels within reach after you've proved to yourself you can endure a few minutes of intensity. You don't have to chase extremes. You only have to rehearse courage until courage stops clearing its throat and starts speaking. The 9th rule keeps momentum from evaporating overnight. Close your loops daily. Unfinished thoughts onto paper. Unfinished tasks into plans. Unfinished conflicts into conversations. And reclaim the mental RAM they steal. Open loops leak energy. The email you keep meaning to write becomes a low hum of self-betrayal. The dented conversation with a friend mutates in the dark into a story where they are a villain and you are a saint. The project with no next action becomes a rock you kick from week to week until you call yourself lazy. Closing loops is not heroism, it is hygiene. 10 minutes before you end the workday, list every open loop. Decide. Do it in 2 minutes, schedule it, delegate it, or delete it. Then end the day with a 3-sentence review. Where you were aligned, where you slipped, what safeguard you'll use tomorrow. This is how you go to bed as a steward instead of a fugitive. You will sleep differently when your mind trusts that you will catch what it drops. You will wake differently when you know there is a net. The 10th rule is the crown because it holds the others in place. Live by standards, not moods, and make the standards few, public to yourself, and non-negotiable. Moods are weather. Standards are climate. Moods say later when the run is cold. Standards say we run. Moods say open the app when attention is itchy. Standards say the phone sleeps elsewhere during deep work. Moods say they deserve my anger. Standards say my tone stays measured. Choose no more than 5. Write them on the inside of your day. I tell the truth kindly. I protect one essential before noon. I never gossip. I keep my word or renegotiate it before it's due. I end the day with a review, then treat violations not as identity wounds, but as process flaws. Missed your standard? Ask why with engineering curiosity, not shame. Was the scope too large? Shrink it. Was the cue missing? Add it. Was the friction too small? Increase it. The Stoics didn't worship perfection. They practiced return. The power of standards is not that you never miss. It's that you miss less and recover faster. Live by them long enough, and something profound happens. You stop asking, "Do I feel like being excellent today?" And you start living as the kind of person who doesn't negotiate excellence with feelings. If you weave these 10 rules together, you'll notice they don't pull you into a new personality. They pull you back into authorship. Govern what enters your mind. Aim your strength at one essential. Make promises small and sacred. Install a pause where chaos wants a reaction. Subtract with kindness. Speak like a caretaker of truth. Turn envy into training. Choose small frictions on purpose. Close your loops so sleep can be sleep. Build your days on standards instead of weather. This is not a glamorous list. It is a sober one. But sober systems are what hold a life when fortune tilts, and fortune always tilts. Now feel the transitions inside your day. Morning becomes a quiet council instead of a riot at the gate. Midday becomes heavy with one task that matters instead of confetti. Afternoon becomes a series of pauses where fights would have been. Evening becomes a closing ceremony instead of a collapse. Night becomes repair, not escape. You do not become a different person. You become the same person on purpose. Your friends can't articulate it yet, but they sense new gravity. Your presence starts to alter the rooms you enter. Less noise, more clarity, fewer complaints, more actions, fewer explanations, more evidence. You may be tempted to ask for one more rule, some secret you can pin to your wall as a talisman. But the hidden rules stop being hidden the moment you practice them. They become visible in your schedule, in your tone, in the way you treat money, food, attention, and other people's names. So don't collect them like quotes. Choose one and make a public promise to yourself so small it's impossible to miss. Tomorrow morning, let nothing touch your mind before your own thought and one page of something noble. Tomorrow before noon, protect one essential. Tomorrow, when a spark lands near your pride, install the pause and save the forest. Tomorrow evening, write the 3-line review and put your loops to bed so you can follow. No one will hand you a medal for this. That's fine. Your reward is something rarer. A day you respect, repeated until respect becomes identity. The Stoics were not trying to become famous. They were trying to become free. These rules are how freedom behaves. Put them to work quietly. Let the results introduce you. And when the world asks how you elevated your life, smile the kind of smile people trust and give them the only answer that is both humble and true. I changed my rules, and my rules changed me.